Chapter 291. The number of beasts that covered the entire area was astonishing. The huge pressure made it hard for people to breathe. Not to mention the emperor-level beasts, just the real dragons were counted in groups. Azure Iron Spine Dragon, Golden Tyrannosaurus Rex, Golden Platinum Lightning Dragon. There were at least hundreds of each type of dragon. Under the lead of the Transformation Realm Dragon, they were invincible and had an astonishing aura. Compared to this, the beast ride in Tianwu continent paled in comparison. The difference was more than one level. Is this the real beast riot? Lin Feng's eyes were bright. The scene in front of him seemed to have brought him back to the time when he was in the Black Mist Dragon Valley, back to the time when he was being chased by the Black Mist Dragon army. Back then, he was unable to resist. But now it was completely different. The test of the Inheritor was as long as he could survive. There were two ways to survive. The first was to protect himself. The second, defeat the beast's attack. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Obviously, he would choose the latter. In fact, there was nothing to consider. Even if it was just an illusion, he was still alive. Here, there were his family and Ziyao. How could he watch them die? Devouring fire. Aurora. In an instant, Lin Feng controlled his main body and secret doppelganger to attack at the same time. There was no disharmony at all. He could control every soul freely, as if they were his left and right hands. The technique of multitasking had reached the pinnacle. Ha! Ha! Two devouring fireballs, one big and one small, immediately condensed. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. After his body had completely evolved, he could control the two devouring fireballs as he wished. Even if the power had increased tremendously, the existence of the Phoenix's origin core was like a string that pulled the two fireballs. The control of the flames was very easy. Bang, bang. The sound of air exploding was extremely terrifying. With a strong vacuum current, the aurora all turned into a bright silver light in the sky. It split into two into four into eight. Every time it split, the carrier became smaller and the speed of its rotation increased. It was as if there was a pair of invisible hands controlling it. Chi! Chi Chi! It swept through the wind and clouds, and silver light filled the sky. Under the constant collisions of the air currents in the vacuum, they were like two magnets that repelled each other, yet complemented each other. His speed had reached the limit. Split! Lin Feng's eyes brightened. Along with the last flash of silver light, the aurora cone turned into 64 crystal plates and spun rapidly in the air, forming a super hurricane. It covered a wide area, and its power was so great that it made one's heart tremble. In an instant, it exploded. Seventh form, sky-filling aurora. Lin Feng's voice rang out from the darkness. At this moment, the first two engulfing fireballs had already struck, and the two dragons at the front were instantly engulfed. The 2,000-meter-long dragons had already reached the first stage of transformation, but before they could even let out a scream, they had already turned into ashes. The power of the devouring fire was quite strong. At the same time, a silver rain of light began to fall from the sky. One by one, they fell like meteors, and a majestic vacuum airflow covered a huge area. The 64 crystal plates condensed into a silver light shield, and the roar was thunderous. All the demonic beasts within the range, regardless of whether they were king-level demonic beasts, emperor-level demonic beasts, or even dragons, could not escape death. Compared to the nirvana of all directions, the final form of the aurora cone, its power was earth-shattering. A surging attack, astonishing strength. Blocking the invasion of the army of beasts, Lin Feng did not retreat half a step. However, the beasts were like a tide that could not be killed, wave after wave, and they were not afraid of death. Oh no! Lin Feng frowned. For the first time, he felt powerless. Compared to the nirvana of all directions, the power of the sky-filling aurora was indeed more than one level higher. Basically, demonic beasts below the transformation level, even if it was a 6th-level Emperor-level dragon, could be seriously injured or even killed. But similarly, the consumption was also doubled. Although the strength of a heavenly god had reached the 7th level of the beginner level, the replenishment of the energy of heaven and earth could not stop the consumption. It was on the verge of exhaustion. This is troublesome. Lin Feng pondered slightly. With his own strength, he was indeed able to protect himself. However, 2 fists were unable to fight against 4 hands. Once he was surrounded by the beasts, no matter how strong he would be alone and without help. The other army of beasts would advance and kill their way into the sky martial continent, massacring the human race. Unknowingly, Lin Feng had already treated this illusion test as reality. In fact, the beasts in front of him were not the same as what the sky martial continent would face in the future. I will not allow it. Lin Feng's eyes deepened, flashing with a strong, unyielding will. That day, he made an oath to all the humans in the sky. As long as he, Lin Feng, was alive, he would protect the sky martial continent and protect the human race from the invasion of the beasts. A man's oath was as heavy as 1,000 caddies. Even if this was just an illusion, even if this was just a test for the inheritor, it was the same. Rise! Lin Feng's hands glowed with the engulfing flame, condensing a blazing wall of fire in front of him. The phoenix's heart of origin spun rapidly, barely maintaining the consumption and growth of the flames at one point. It was like a heavenly moat, separating the army of beasts. Chi! The dragon-killing spear was unsheathed, and a red light flashed. Following the surging of the chi of heaven and earth, a thick black fog spread out. The martial god's wheel on his right leg glowed, and a golden dragon image spread out around his body, spiraling out. Golden dragon, chi. At this moment, a pitch-black ball of spirit beasts was thrown out, accompanied by the appearance of a black skeleton from the black fog. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Puppet. Lin Feng controlled his fate spirit, using the secret technique as he wished. A black luster appeared, bringing with it a strand of life aura. Enveloped by the black fog, Lin Feng's entire body turned into a shadow, instantly overlapping with the figure of the black skeleton, disappearing from his original position. Their auras completely merged, and the possession was perfect. So, 2 black figures scuttled into the huge army of beasts. They were like 2 thin needles entering a boundless ocean. They were so small and inconspicuous. There were billions of beasts. When would he be able to kill all of them with his strength alone? However, Lin Feng did not hesitate at all. This was a kind of determination and attitude. Even if he had to pay with his life, he had to fulfill this promise. If he retreated today, there would always be a knot in his heart, a thorn that would hang like a beam, leaving a deep imprint in his heart, becoming a regret that he could not get rid of. One had to do one's best. 10 days and 10 nights. He had killed until he was numb, and his hands were limp. Blood flowed like a river, but the number of beasts in the army did not decrease at all. After all, there was a limit to human strength. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, not giving up at all. Even though he was mentally exhausted and numb, his heart was still full of stubbornness. His firm belief and willpower had never wavered in the slightest. This was his mission. Kill, kill, kill. Lin Feng turned into an Azura. He slaughtered alone and was covered in blood. His blood-red eyes were like that of a crazy demon. There was no mercy or hesitation. There were only enemies around him. Rumble, the magical beast army, was still approaching. In an instant, the sky lit up with a deep red glow. The entire sky seemed to be illuminated, and an extremely terrifying aura erupted in an instant. Boom! A huge fireball fell from the sky like a meteor. Oh my God! Lin Feng was extremely shocked. His heartbeat was extremely fast, and his expression changed continuously. The heart of the phoenix's origin in his body kept spinning. Sensing the monstrous flames, Lin Feng was extremely shocked. This huge fireball might not be as good as the devouring flames in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity, it was thousands of times better than his devouring flames. It was an attack that could destroy the world. Boom! It completely exploded. The noisy battlefield suddenly quieted down. There were no longer any magical beasts around Lin Feng. The surging aura enveloped his body. Lin Feng and Black Skeleton looked straight ahead. It was a strange magical beast that he had never seen before. It was 100 meters long and covered in raging flames. Like a dog or a lion, its curly hair fluttered slightly in the flames. Its bright eyes flickered with an aggressive cold light. Its howl shook the air, and all the magical beasts retreated. The shocking aura of flames filled the air and enveloped the battlefield. Heavenly Hound, one of the top 5 bloodlines. So brutal. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. The thought had just appeared in his mind when the Heavenly Hound attacked. Its cold eyes were sharp. It suddenly opened its mouth, and the powerful chi of heaven and earth immediately surged. The huge fireball condensed again. Its speed was amazing. So fast, Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. His body quickly teleported to block it. The shocking fireball was much smaller than before, but its power was more concentrated and condensed. The urgent fire shuttle under his feet soared into the sky. Lin Feng's reaction speed was fast enough, and he barely avoided the fireball that was charging at him. But in front of him, another fireball instantly descended. There was no way to avoid it. The attack was fierce. Space deceleration. The black fog rushed in with the powerful chi of heaven and earth. The fireball suddenly slowed down a little, as if it was strongly suppressed. The Heavenly Hound roared. Lin Feng avoided it by a hair's breadth. The dense fireball attack left him with no room to fight back. With a thought, Black Skeleton rushed forward. 2 against 1. However, what Lin Feng didn't expect was that the Heavenly Hound had already descended at this time. It soared into the air as if it was riding on flat ground. Its speed wasn't affected at all. It was as majestic as a king, and its huge body was filled with a strong sense of pressure. In an instant, it became 10 times larger, and a terrifying flame, energy, soared into the sky. The celestial hound opened its mouth, and in an instant, an extremely terrifying suction force descended from the sky. It was like a huge black hole. No! Lin Feng, who was in the secret clone, felt that he had completely lost control of his body. His main body, which was slightly further away, couldn't resist it either. In almost an instant, his body didn't seem to belong to him. It was as if he had fallen into an abyss. Shocking fear and darkness instantly drowned Lin Feng. At this moment, everything was coming to an end. End of episode 14. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 292. His body continued to fall. Lin Feng's heart sank to the bottom. Am I dead? This thought appeared in his mind, and Lin Feng smiled in surprise. Immersed in the illusory realm where it was difficult to distinguish reality from illusion, he seemed to have forgotten that this was only a test. I failed the test of the inheritor. Lin Feng shook his head, his eyes filled with disappointment. But he did not regret it. Even if time passed, he would still make the same decision. He would not give up his principles just to pass the test. The feeling in his body was still clear, as if he did not suffer any injuries. But the feeling of failure, the shadow of death, was deeply imprinted in his heart, making it hard for Lin Feng to forget. He had lost. He had lost completely, without any room to fight back. What kind of monster is that, to be so strong? Lin Feng thought, feeling that it was unbelievable. 100-meter-long body. It should be the second realm of transformation, but it could easily change its shape and return to the third realm of transformation. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. That astonishing fireball, the speed at which it condensed, its power was simply shocking. And that terrifying suction at the end, what was it? Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief, his heart filled with shock. No matter if it was the main body or the secret doppelganger, at the last moment, it completely collapsed. He was instantly killed. This monster, does it really exist? Or is it just a test in the illusion? Lin Feng's expression kept changing, his heart twisted. If this monster really existed, Sky Marshall Continent, big trouble. Time. Every second was torture. As if falling from the clouds, Lin Feng was suffocating. Boom! He fell heavily. Lin Feng only felt his mind tremble violently, as if he had entered a familiar body. That feeling came from the heart. Although he had lost his power, in that instant, it was as if he had lost many things, but the real feeling came back. This was his real body. I came out of the illusion. Lin Feng felt his heart starting to beat again. When he opened his eyes, there were dim lights all around him, making him barely able to see. It was a place filled with jagged crystals. Under the faint illumination of the light, there was a kind of psychedelic color. The space was extremely large, at least several thousand meters long and wide. With a push of his right hand, Lin Feng stood up. He clenched his fists and sensed his body. There's nothing strange. Lin Feng felt a huge weight lifted off his chest as he calmed down. No matter what, it was fine as long as his body was fine. As for the test of the inheritor, it didn't matter if he passed or not. But where is this? Lin Feng was astonished. Stepping into the last light gate of the 33rd layer of heaven, he felt as if he had opened a door that had been sealed for a long time. Everything felt so unfamiliar and strange. It was just like when he had first entered the heavenly treasure world. It was as if he had entered a different space. Is it in the 33 heavens? That's not right. Lin Feng looked at the dragon star seal in his hand, his eyes bright. It's in the training base. The fluorescent compass lost its response. This was a kind of feeling of being isolated. Lin Feng was very clear. Looking around carefully, Lin Feng frowned. He had never been here before. There's actually such a place in the training base? Lin Feng thought for a while, then nodded. I almost forgot. The training base is also an ancient ruin. It's just that I can't enter the inner layer. Could it be that this is the inner layer? But how did I enter this place? Unable to understand, Lin Feng shook his head. Let's look around. He slowly walked forward, spreading out his mind's eye. However, it was suppressed by an extremely strong power, preventing it from spreading out. The surrounding crystal walls seemed to be made of some special material, completely blocking out his senses. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel curious. This crystal. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Carefully staring at the craggy crystal, staring at it without blinking. In an instant, Lin Feng's face changed greatly. No, it can't be. With bloodshot eyes, Lin Feng's mind suddenly went blank. It was as if thousands of thunderbolts were rumbling. The shock in his heart was no less than when he was killed by that monster. The crystal in front of him was actually 7-star crystal, Tinya crystal. My eyes aren't deceiving me, right? Lin Feng rubbed his eyes, only to feel his heart beating rapidly. The craggy crystal in front of him looked unremarkable, but he didn't see it wrong. It was indeed the 7-star crystal marked on the first page of the Crystal Illustrated Handbook. After reading the 3 volumes of or Illustrated Handbook, Lin Feng could be considered an expert in metals, minerals, and crystals. Although he didn't necessarily understand, at least he recognized and knew. The Crystal Illustrated Handbook recorded tens of millions of crystals, among which 999% were differentiated by grade. For example, Sky Treasure Crystal was 7th grade, Black Fog Crystal was 6th grade, and the remaining 0.001% were the Precious Star grade. Even a lowest 1-star crystal, its value was hundreds or thousands of times higher than that of a grade crystal. And among the star grade crystals, the lowest was 1 star, the highest was 7 stars. It can't be. Lin Feng's gaze changed. He couldn't react at all. Looking around, the surrounding stone walls were densely packed with heavenly crystals. The number of them was unimaginable. If it was really a Tinya crystal, the legendary crystal that was priceless, just a thumb-sized crystal was already incredible, not to mention tens of thousands of square meters. Looking around, there was almost no end, just counting would take a long time. Let's give it a try. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Silver light flashed in his right hand. The aurora all appeared in his hand. Flashing with a shocking cold light, Lin Feng picked up the tip and gently pierced the stone wall. Suddenly, cha! A crisp sound was heard. Lin Feng's face instantly turned pale, looking at the aurora all in his hand that had accompanied him all this time. The tip was forcibly broken. He wanted to slap himself twice. I'm so stupid. Lin Feng was in great pain. Because of a moment of curiosity, a good 6-star spirit practitioner weapon was actually broken by him. It was like using an egg to smash a rock. The result, it was too horrible to look at. I wonder if it can still be used? Lin Feng felt depressed. In terms of attack, the Aurora all was not as good as the engulfing fire or the dragon-killing spear. But it was indispensable to resist the beast riot. Without the 8-directional destruction area of effect attack, it would be troublesome to deal with the hundreds of millions of beast army. Just like in the illusion just now, if the Aurora all could no longer be used, the consequences would be worrying. Retrieving the Aurora all with heartache, Lin Feng secretly scolded himself for being impulsive, but looking at the craggy crystal, his gaze eased up a little. With such tenacity, it seemed that this crystal was really the legendary Tianya crystal. Let's try the engulfing fire, Lin Feng thought. The Qilin fire centipede on his left hand lit up, and a shocking flame energy burst out. The blazing flame condensed all of Lin Feng's strength, turning into a fireball and falling on the crystal wall like a meteor. There was no ripple at all. There was not even a slight vibration, as if he blew air. Not to mention the crystal wall being damaged. There was not even the slightest change in color. Lin Feng kept the engulfing fire, and at this moment, all of his doubts disappeared. This was really the Tianya crystal. The legendary 7-star crystal. I'm rich. Lin Feng's eyes shone. It was like a poor man seeing a mountain of gold. But soon Lin Feng was speechless. Although this Tianya crystal was precious, with such a large piece of the Tianya crystal wall connected together, there was not even a crack. How could he obtain it? He sighed, helpless. It was worse than a poor man entering a mountain of gold. At least the poor man could move a few gold bricks, but he could not even obtain half a Tianya crystal and could only stare at the Tianya crystal wall. Clenching his fist, Lin Feng felt a deep sense of helplessness and walked forward. He was unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. 10 steps, 100 steps, 1,000 steps. Gradually going in, Lin Feng felt an inexplicable tremor in his heart. It was as if there was a strong force that made his hair stand. That was a shocking aura. His soul heart trembled. Lin Feng unconsciously clenched his fists, his eyes shining. So strong. This place is indeed not ordinary. Lin Feng muttered. His state of mind was much calmer. Since even the 7-star crystal, Tianya crystal, could appear, what else could not appear? Step by step, Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Suddenly, his footsteps stopped. Lin Feng stared blankly in front, almost suffocating. Not far from the Tianya crystal wall, there was a 10-meter-long crack. The arc of the crack was rather neat, as if it was forcefully cut open by a knife. But what made Lin Feng suffocate was not the arc, but the ground was filled with powder. The powder of the Tianya crystal. Ha ha ha. Lin Feng laughed out loud. At the end of the road, there was a glimmer of hope. Originally, he was still thinking of ways to obtain a little bit from the Tianya crystal wall, but now, it was obtained without any effort. His body moved lightly. Lin Feng picked up a piece of Tianya crystal that was not even a tenth the size of a rice grain. His eyes lit up. Extremely heavy. Shocking weight. But this further proved the preciousness of the Tianya crystal. The largest of the surrounding Tianya crystals was not even the size of a rice grain, and the smallest could not even be seen with the naked eye. But Lin Feng did not miss a single bit. Like a gust of wind sweeping the fallen leaves, he quickly swept the place clean, revealing a satisfied smile. The harvest is not bad. Lin Feng smiled slightly. His gaze landed on the extremely long blade Qi, his eyes shining brightly. I wonder who it is to actually be able to break open a 7-star crystal. It should be a true expert of the Douling world. With that thought in mind, Lin Feng did not think too much. Without reaching that level, it was like looking at the sky from the bottom of a well, never knowing what the world outside of the well was like. Continuing forward, Lin Feng saw 2 more blade chi consecutively and unceremoniously took all the Tianya crystal powder. Slowly, he went deeper and deeper, until, my God, Lin Feng looked forward, suddenly feeling his mouth dry, his eyes bloodshot. Everyone, don't worry. The diligent little pig will not be lazy. Continue to work hard. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 293. In front of his eyes, the Tianya crystal was shattered everywhere. Flowers blossomed everywhere. Compared to the marks left by the blade chi, it was as if a cruel battle had taken place here. Deep sword marks and blade marks crisscrossed. The Tianya crystal wall was severely damaged. It was hard to believe what kind of battle had taken place here. And the most shocking thing was a huge hole. A funnel-shaped hole. A golden awl pierced deeply into the Tianya crystal wall. It was at least 10 meters deep. The surrounding Tianya crystal wall was affected by the strong impact and cracked. That deep golden color carried a bright light. It was as if no matter how many years had passed, it would always be this bright golden. God, what kind of weapon is this? Lin Feng's head was shaking. The sword marks and blade marks were only an inch deep in the Tianya crystal wall. But this golden awl's impact had caused the cracks in the Tianya crystal wall to be several meters deep. The difference was obvious. Pung pung. Lin Feng's heart beat faster. With strong curiosity, Lin Feng gently touched the golden awl. It felt cool to the touch. The base of the awl was in a unique octagonal diamond shape. The golden light was filled with a sharp light. His right hand accidentally brushed past it, and in a split second, a long bloody wound appeared. God, it's so sharp. Lin Feng was shocked. His body was no longer the same as before. It was at least beginner star level 5. But just by brushing past it, the cut skin quickly healed. The cells that had been strengthened by the phoenix blood had a strong regenerative ability. Lin Feng's recovery ability was relatively strong. His eyes lit up. Lin Feng carefully pinched the flat part of the golden awl and gently exhaled. I wonder if I can pull it out? Lin Feng suddenly had this thought. His right hand gently exerted force and inadvertently cut a few more wounds on his fingers. But Lin Feng did not care at all. At this moment, like cutting tofu, his right hand actually pulled out the golden awl. The tip of the awl shone with a cold light. There was not the slightest bit of wear and tear. The golden light covered the eyes. Oh my God! Lin Feng didn't expect it to be so easy. But in an instant, the golden light was resplendent. A powerful force gushed out of the golden awl. Lin Feng's complexion changed greatly. It was a strong resistance, as if it harbored deep enmity towards him. The golden awl fell to the ground. Weapons have spirits. Lin Feng immediately recalled what his father had said to him. His expression changed slightly, and then he let out a long sigh. What a pity. But even if I have this golden awl, it's useless, right? Lin Feng laughed. It was like a baby getting a heaven-defying weapon. With his own strength, he was unable to control it at all. After collecting the Tianya crystal powder, Lin Feng continued to move forward. So what if he couldn't bear to part with her? If it wasn't his, there was no point in forcing it. As he walked, he looked around. There were traces of a battle in front of him, but it was not as intense as before. Fine cracks densely covered the large area of the Tianya crystal wall, forming a unique scenery. Lin Feng clicked his tongue and sighed, but he was no longer as surprised as he was at the beginning. He had adapted to it. No, it should be numb. After walking for about a quarter of an hour, Lin Feng suddenly let out a soft. The surrounding passageway slowly shrunk, forming a trapezoidal structure. And the extreme shock in his heart became stronger and stronger, like a shadow following his heart. Lin Feng looked forward and could faintly see a fine light. His heart was filled with curiosity, gradually approaching, even closer. That is, Lin Feng took a deep breath, his heart beating extremely fast. What he saw, that was a corpse, a huge and tall corpse. Green skin, huge pores. That strange face was filled with a hint of desolation. With one look, one could tell that it was not a human. The corpse was wearing a thick layer of battle armor. On top of the battle armor, there were intricate patterns carved on it. The structure was incomparably fine. The blood-red eyes were still opened angrily, as if it died with grievances. Heavens! Lin Feng felt suffocated. Looking at the eyes of the corpse, it was as if he was looking at a sea of blood from hell. His heart was beating so fast that it was about to burst. What a terrifying feeling. He was like a lowly ant facing the powerful dragon clan. Even though this corpse had been dead for an unknown number of years, and even though its eyes no longer had the sharpness they once had, the remaining trace of power still caused Lin Feng's back to turn ice cold, and cold sweat continuously seeped out. What level of expert is this? It's too scary. Lin Feng felt suffocated. Calm down. I can't be affected by it. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, not daring to look at the eyes of the corpse. No matter how focused his mind was, as long as he fell into those empty blood-red eyes, he could not control his heart and felt a deep sense of fear. That was a kind of pressure from the level of life. No matter how strong his mind was, it was useless. This corpse seems to have been dead for a long time. Lin Feng looked at the surrounding environment. A thick layer of dust had accumulated on its green skin, but the corpse did not rot or wither in the slightest. It was as if it was still alive, but there was no longer any breath of life. Who was it that could kill such a strong cultivator? Lin Feng's heart pounded. After observing for a long time, Lin Feng slowly shook his head. Let's go inside and take a look. Lin Feng looked over. The light spot was still far away, but it seemed to have become much brighter. Stepping forward, Lin Feng's eyes kept changing. The deeper he went into this strange space, the more he felt his heart tremble. He seemed to have unearthed some unimaginable secret. Slowly, finally, my God, Lin Feng was shocked beyond words. In front of him, there was a huge circular light shield, shining with a faint luster. In front of the light shield, there was a messy area. The surrounding Tianya crystal wall was destroyed beyond recognition. Blade shadows, sword marks, spear marks, and there was even a huge mark that was 100 meters long, as if a long whip had whizzed through it. So many. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The golden all that he saw just now, there were more than 10 of them here. The Tianya crystal wall was severely damaged. The biggest crack was 100 meters deep. It was hard to imagine what kind of attack could destroy this incomparably tough 7-star crystal wall to such an extent. Phew! Letting out a long breath, Lin Feng did not dare to look at the corpses. Every one of them seemed to possess an extremely strong power. Their bodies were well preserved. Armors and weapons were all pierced through. 2 of the corpses had large holes in their chests. One of them was a strange person with a curved horn on his head. The long hair in his hand pierced through the mouth of another yellow-skinned and cracked, toothed strange person. The other was a blue, beautiful, ghost-like woman. Her mouth was wide open, but she did not even know how she died. It was a grotesque scene. Looking into the depths, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was a huge, long spear. The silver body of the spear was sharp and imposing. The tip of the spear was shining with a clear, cold light. It looked ordinary, but the long spear was emitting an astonishing aura. It was as if it was independent of space and had formed its own self. What a powerful spear! Lin Feng could not help but praise. Lin Feng had been practicing with spears since he was young. He always had a special preference for spears. But it's not something I can use. Lin Feng sighed. He understood. The aura of this long spear was even more terrifying than the golden awl. With his strength, not to mention controlling it, just the weight alone was more than he could bear. What exactly happened here? So many experts actually died. Lin Feng held his breath. There were more than 10 corpses. No matter which one it was, they all had a terrifying aura. The monster that he met in the illusion just now, in front of these dead experts, was like a puppy or a kitten. They could not be compared at all. I seem to have come to an incredible place. Lin Feng's chest kept rising and falling. His heartbeat was extremely fast, and he could not calm down. Letting out a long breath, Lin Feng looked at the white light circle in front of him. His eyes were bright. It seemed that this was the only way. No hurry, Lin Feng thought to himself. His gaze swept across the surroundings. The scattered Tinya crystals were many times more than the ones he picked up just now. They were scattered all over the place. Among them, the biggest one was even the size of a palm. According to the illustrated handbook, it was already priceless. How can I return empty-handed after entering a treasure mountain? Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Very quickly, like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, Lin Feng immediately cleaned up his messy place. The scattered Tinya crystals were all in his pocket. If it were not for the fact that those weapons and armors could not be moved, they would not have escaped Lin Feng's sweeping. It's about time. Lin Feng stopped, satisfied. His gaze landed on one of the palm-sized armors, and he shook his head. It was just a small piece, but it was as heavy as a mountain. He could not lift it at all. It's beyond my ability. Lin Feng did not mind. Such a small piece was useless. It was too heavy even if he carried it with him. Just as he was thinking about it, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. He looked at the treasured sword of the human warrior in the distance. It seemed like fragments. Lin Feng was stunned. That faint silver luster, a thin layer, was like a cicada's wing, but it had a dazzling light and powerful energy. Hua! His body moved. Lin Feng bent down and stared at the treasured sword. Indeed, there was a slight damage on the blade. The shape was exactly the same as that of the cicada's wing. Oh! With a thought, Lin Feng immediately picked up that small sword fragment. It was sparkling and looked extremely sharp. Lin Feng didn't even need to test it out to know how powerful the blade fragment was. The treasured sword fragment of the mysterious warrior. TSK, TSK. Lin Feng's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Although this sword fragment was small, if it was controlled by the life spirit and used as a hidden weapon, it would be impossible to guard against. Not bad. Take it. Lin Feng smiled. Naturally, he did not reject it. Once again, Lin Feng scanned the messy battlefield. When he made sure that there was nothing left, he turned his gaze back to the white circle of light. The faint luster flickered as if it had lost its energy. But there seemed to be something attracting him. Lin Feng hesitated slightly. He was very cautious. There had to be a reason why he had come here. No matter what, this is the only path I can take, Lin Feng said softly. Behind him was a dead end. He could only cross this white circle of light. Go. Lin Feng smiled faintly and stepped in. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to Comachedian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 294. Whoosh! The light disappeared in a flash. Stepping through the white circle of light was like stepping through a huge door. Lin Feng let out a soft cry of surprise, and then his eyes lit up. Beep! Beep! A crisp sound rang out in his ears, and it was as if a light had suddenly been turned on in a dark hall. Round pearls lit up with white light, illuminating the surroundings. It was a huge circular space. Lin Feng stepped on a transparent metal plate. It seemed a bit old, but it was still shiny and bright. In front of him, there were all kinds of energy machines. The structure was huge, but every part was very fine. The transparent metallic luster formed a very exquisite pattern. Although it looked quite ancient, it was still incomparably shocking. This place is... Lin Feng was very surprised. He didn't expect to see such a scene after stepping through the white circle of light. It was completely different from the space outside, as if it were two different worlds. I've been waiting for you for a long time, Inheritor. A pleasant voice sounded very natural and relaxed. Lin Feng was stunned. Before he could react, all kinds of strange lights gathered in front of him from all directions. In an instant, they formed the figure of a boy who was almost 1 meter tall. He was holding his chin with his hand and looking at Lin Feng with wide eyes. You are? Lin Feng looked at the boy in front of him cautiously. To be able to say the words Inheritor It was clear that everything just now seemed to be closely related to this boy. "Call me Plenty." The voice was very calm, and Plenty's eyes were a bit blurry. I didn't expect that after waiting for a full 330,000 years in the land where my master was born, Plenty finally met the requirements for an inheritor. 330,000 years. Lin Feng was a little dumbfounded. It was hard for him to imagine how long it had been. He stared at Plenty, who was only 1 meter tall. Lin Feng said in a daze, "Plenty, 330,000 years old?" Ha! Ha ha ha! Suddenly, Duo clutched his stomach and laughed loudly. 330,000 years old? Lin Feng, you're too funny. Is it that funny? Lin Feng was stunned. Duo's lips curled into a smile as he shook his head. Actually, I don't even know how old I am. From the time I can remember, at least 10 million centuries have passed. Duo paused for a moment, then continued. According to the Marshall Heaven Continent's calculations, it should be several billion years. Billions of years. Lin Feng's mind was in a bit of a daze. Plenty's words were a bit too far-fetched. Wait a minute. Sky Marshall Continent? And Lin Feng? Duo you. Lin Feng stared at Duo in shock, his heartbeat accelerating. How do you know my name? Toto smiled non-committally. You want to know why? Come with me. Without waiting for Lin Feng's reply, Duo floated forward. Lin Feng looked at the child, who was less than 1 meter tall, and naturally did not underestimate him. According to him, that was an old monster that had lived for billions of years. Who is the master he mentioned? And what's going on with these 330,000 years? Lin Feng's heart was filled with endless questions. His gaze constantly flickered, but he could only suppress them for now. Let's walk and see. Lin Feng stepped forward and followed. Right now, there was no room for him to choose. Duo, where are we going now? Lin Feng asked. To see my master. At the same time, confirm your identity as an inheritor, replied Duo indifferently without even turning his head. Inheritor? Lin Feng frowned. Didn't I fail the inheritor's test? I was just playing around when I was bored. Duo's casual reply left Lin Feng speechless. Just as he was about to ask again, Duo stopped. Lin Feng looked around. At this time, he was standing at the center of the spherical space. We're here. Duo's voice seemed to have changed slightly. In an instant, Duo's small, white hand pointed at the ground, emitting an intense wave of golden white light. With a boom, the sphere shook violently. Under Lin Feng's gaze, the ground suddenly emitted a chi sound, and a semicircular sphere suddenly split open. Stand on it. Duo's voice was very calm. Lin Feng grunted softly. Although he was filled with doubts, he did not hesitate. Given the uniqueness of this place, he believed that Duo did not need to resort to any tricks to harm him. His heart trembled. Lin Feng was also very curious about this mysterious master. Duo was already so strange. What kind of existence would his master be? Lin Feng could not help but think of the corpse he had just seen. His heart beat rapidly, and he felt a hint of nervousness and anticipation. It was definitely a truly important person. His eyes sparkling, Lin Feng stepped forward and stepped onto the semicircular metal plate. Hua! The sphere rapidly descended. In the blink of an eye, it reached the ground. Hua! It stopped. In an instant, pa! Bright pearls lit up one after another, illuminating the entire space. Lin Feng looked around in surprise. This was a metal layer, and it flickered with a faint black light. The surroundings were empty. Apart from a huge, cylindrical machine in the center, there was nothing else. This place was like a sealed secret room. Master, I'm here. Duo's voice was filled with sadness. Lin Feng was slightly startled. Things did not seem to be as he had imagined. Rumble, the ground was shaking. Lin Feng's heart tightened, and he felt an indescribable pressure. It was a kind of throbbing that came from the heart, an extremely strong pressure. He saw a huge ice coffin slowly floating up, emitting a shocking chill. It seemed to be made of ice, and snowflakes were condensing. Lin Feng's body trembled, as if his body was frozen. It was too cold. This bone-piercing cold was enough to freeze an ordinary martial god into an ice sculpture. A corpse lay in the ice coffin. The corpse was about 2 meters tall, and it was almost no different from a human being. It had a slender body, a handsome face, soft long hair, and white jade-like arms. It was enough to be called a handsome man. However, its eyes were tightly closed, and it lay quietly in the ice coffin, without any signs of life. In an instant, Lin Feng understood everything. So, Duo's master is already dead. Lin Feng thought to himself, feeling that it was a pity. Although there was an ice coffin between them, although it was just a corpse, but it gave him a feeling that it was much stronger than the corpses outside. It had a terrifying pressure that could shake one's soul. Even if it was dead, it was still a true expert. Master, Duo has come to see you. Duo's voice was choked with sobs. Lin Feng looked over and saw Duo lying on the ice coffin, tears dripping from his eyes. 2 streams of tears flowed down his face, filled with sorrow. Lin Feng could see the pain and discomfort in his eyes. Seeing Duo's sorrowful expression, Lin Feng could not help but think of his family. They felt exactly the same. My condolences, Lin Feng said after some hesitation. But it would have been better if he hadn't comforted her. Once he did, Duo's tears fell uncontrollably. A thick sadness filled the empty room. It was as if a child was crying loudly, but it was a complete display of her true feelings. Looking at the scene before him, Lin Feng did not know what to do. All he could do was wait. After crying for an hour, Duo finally stopped crying. His red eyes made him look like a child's. Who would have thought that he was an old monster that had lived for billions of years? I forgot myself, Duo said. It's fine. Lin Feng shook his head. If he were in Duo's place, he would probably be as sad. In the blink of an eye, 330,000 years have passed. Duo's voice was hoarse and sorrowful. On the underworld Crow planet, Master was ambushed and heavily injured. He had to use all his strength to break through the astral space, hide his aura, and flee back to his core. But in the end, Master's injuries were too heavy, and he died. However, to be able to die in his homeland, Master's wish was fulfilled. Underworld Crow planet? Astral space. Lin Feng heard one new term after another, but he had never heard of them before. Although he was filled with curiosity, he still listened carefully. According to Master's final wishes, I stayed here to help him select a successor, said Duo, shaking his head. Duo shook his head. Who would have thought that year after year, the martial heaven continent would be destroyed, and the inheritances would be destroyed, and the inheritances would be reborn? It took a total of 330,000 years for me to find the first inheritor who met the requirements. Me? Lin Feng pointed at himself, startled. Although I barely managed to. Duo smiled. If you hadn't fused with the Phoenix's blood, you would have been eliminated from the test of talent. Lin Feng instantly understood. He thought back to the time when his talent had been evaluated. The highest talent he had received had been the martial god. Now that he heard Duo's words, Lin Feng instantly understood. It was most likely because he had fused with the Phoenix's blood. I'm not afraid to tell you, Lin Feng. In the past 330,000 years, there have been 6 people with better talent than you. Duo's words were within Lin Feng's expectations. He smiled indifferently, not minding it at all. According to his father, before he had fused with the Phoenix's blood, his talent had only been ordinary. But they all lost in the final test. Duo's voice suddenly turned sharp. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and his heart shook. Clearly, the final test wasn't just for fun like Duo had said. It was as if it was a real choice. This is the first time I've disobeyed Master's orders. I've added the final condition myself. Duo's eyes shone brightly as he clenched his teeth. I hope that Master's legacy can be passed on to someone of flesh and blood, someone with a firm will. Even if I have to wait 330,000 years, or 3,300,000 years, I will continue to wait until I find the right person. Duo stared at Lin Feng, his eyes shining with a sharp light. Lin Feng, are you willing to take master as your master? Accept the legacy. Continue to work hard. Good luck. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 295. Lin Feng was stunned. However, the sudden change made him unable to react. Master, accept the inheritance? You have two choices. Duo's gaze was cold. Lin Feng could see the coldness in his eyes. First, with the heavens as my witness, you become my master's final disciple. Second, Lin Feng nodded. He looked at Duo curiously. Duo's lips curled up. Second, you die. His voice was very calm, but Lin Feng could feel a strong pressure from it. Duo hadn't lied to him. If he didn't agree with him, he might really kill him. Lin Feng could see that Duo was loyal to his master, willing to sacrifice everything for him. Do I have a choice? Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Although he was inclined to accept the inheritance, this was an opportunity that could only be found by chance. But being forced to accept a master like this made him feel uncomfortable. You don't. Duo shook his head. Because you want to protect the Martial Heaven continent and your family. When he heard that, Lin Feng's expression turned serious and his eyes flickered. In front of Duo, he was completely transparent. He had no secrets. Did you think that the test was an illusion? Duo's gaze flickered, causing Lin Feng's heart to skip a beat as a chill ran down his spine. Duo said calmly, "This is the scene I've simulated half a year later. Although it's not 100% accurate, the accuracy is over 90%. What? This time, Lin Feng was truly shocked. In other words, what he had just experienced was the Beast Horde's final attack half a year later. Impossible, Lin Feng muttered. The third stage of the Beast Horde should last for at least a year. How could it be just half a year? That's under normal circumstances. Duo calmly replied. With your strength, you are indeed qualified to resist the Beast Horde in 1 or 2 years, even if you have to expend a bit more effort. You have a 95% chance of successfully quelling a 9th-rank Beast Horde. Lin Feng nodded. Duo's words were similar to his father's. His current strength was indeed not weak. But that's a normal situation. Lin Feng's eyes widened when he heard Duo's words. He suddenly came to a realization. He couldn't help but think of that terrifying monster. He felt a chill run down his spine. Cold sweat seeped out from his forehead. Lin Feng's heart thumped. Duo, you mean? Yes, that celestial dog. It will destroy the entire Martial Sky continent. Heavenly dog? Lin Feng was stunned, and then a wisp of deep coldness appeared in his heart. The Heavenly Dog clan, one of the top 5 bloodlines? Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. That's right, Toto nodded. This celestial hound should have been sent here through a spatial rift. It only has instinctive movements. However, the Celestial Dog clan is ferocious, ruthless, and bloodthirsty by nature. This instinct is even more terrifying. Lin Feng's expression was grave, his brows tightly knitted. Just as Toto had said, the Celestial Hound and its companions were all bloodthirsty. They were extremely crazy. The Celestial Hound you met in the illusion was in its infancy. However, its strength has already far surpassed that of an ordinary Star River Realm warrior. Heavens! It had such terrifying strength in its infancy. Lin Feng felt suffocated. Even the Black Fog Demon Dragon, when it was in its infancy, only had the strength of a king-level demon beast. The top 5 bloodlines were heaven-defying and terrifying. Above the top 5 bloodlines, there are still 4 supreme bloodlines. I wonder how strong they are. Lin Feng thought to himself. It was completely unimaginable. Thinking about how he had no power to fight back in the illusion, Lin Feng felt his heart tighten. In other words, in half a year, history would repeat itself? Seeing Lin Feng's expression change, Toto smiled. That's why I said you have no choice. Even if you break through in half a year and become a Star River Realm warrior, Lin Feng, the chances of the celestial hound demon beast being in half a year's time is very low. The chance of defeating this celestial hound is also less than 1 in 10,000. It's only a theoretical possibility. Lin Feng's heart surged. He raised his head, his eyes deep, as if he had understood something. You can help me? Lin Feng stared at Toto. Yes. Toto did not hesitate. 50%. Toto raised his hand. I can't guarantee anything else, but in half a year's time, if you face that celestial hound again, you should have a 50% chance of defeating it. Toto's eyes flashed with a bright light, causing Lin Feng's heart to beat faster. Hope surged in his heart. 1 in 10,000 and 50% were two completely different concepts. Indeed, he had no choice. I'm willing. Lin Feng opened his mouth, his eyes filled with determination. To him, there was nothing more important than protecting the Martial Sky continent and his family. Are you sincere? Toto smiled. Yes. Lin Feng spoke from the bottom of his heart. Even if you have to pay a huge price. Toto's eyes deepened. No matter the price. Lin Feng was resolute. Even if he had to pay a huge price, he was willing. Good. Very good. Toto clapped his hands, a trace of admiration in his eyes. As expected, I didn't choose the wrong person, Lin Feng. Just based on what you said, don't worry. Even if you aren't as strong as that celestial hound in half a year's time, I will ensure your family's safety. Many thanks. Lin Feng nodded, revealing a helpless smile, as expected of an old monster who had lived for billions of years. He had a firm grasp of Lin Feng's lifeline. But what could he do? However, taking such an expert as his master wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Perhaps there were many people who wished for it, but could not. How do I take him as my master? Lin Feng looked at Toto. Keep it simple. Toto looked at the ice coffin, a faint daze in his eyes. Kneel down and kowtow 3 times to show your respect. Lin Feng nodded. Lin Feng looked at the ice coffin. This super expert had lived for an unknown number of years. His body was still intact, even after death. Lin Feng's heart was filled with deep respect for him. This was a kind of heartfelt admiration, respect, and admiration for a true expert. Now, he was going to take him as his master. Wasn't this also a blessing? Bang! Lin Feng knelt down and kowtowed 3 times solemnly. Toto hovered in the air, his large eyes flashing with a faint light. In an instant, above the ice coffin, a dazzling light gathered as if it was made by heaven. The rapid energy fluctuation caused Lin Feng's heart to tremble. He lifted his head and looked over, only to see an illusory human figure appearing in front of him, as though it had been refracted by light. It was an incomparably handsome man. A handsome face, long hair, and a pair of eyes that seemed to be able to speak. Wasn't he, my disciple, hello? The voice was a little weak, and a dim light highlighted his pale face. The handsome man smiled. When you see this message, your master will already be dead. Child, you will become the last disciple of my Bailey lineage. Your master's name is Feng, and I wish to be like the wind, free and unrestrained. Bailey Feng coughed lightly, but shook his head with a bitter smile. Unfortunately, the heavens did not fulfill my wish. Your master's life has been full of bumps and has never been peaceful. Child, although we have never met, I feel that the heavens will not treat me badly. Bailey Feng smiled. Toto will use everything to nurture you and continue my Bailey lineage. Goodbye, no, goodbye forever, my child. Remember, live well. Pa! The light gradually dimmed, and the last remnant figure disappeared. Toto bit his lips, his eyes filled with tears as he wailed. Master, master. Lin Feng let out a long breath. Bailey Feng, no, his master had died with a smile on his face. This was an expert that deserved respect from the bottom of one's heart. From his voice, he could hear the care and concern, the sincere and selfless devotion. He simply wanted him to live well. Master! Lin Feng looked at the face in the ice coffin and felt a sense of familiarity. The distance between them seemed to have shortened quite a bit. Lin Feng. Toto turned around, his red eyes filled with extreme coldness. He clenched his small fists. Do you remember what you promised me? I remember. Lin Feng replied decisively. Master, you're a kind person. You don't want to be calculative or take revenge, but I will remember. Todo's anger exploded. He clenched his teeth. During the battle on Underworld Crow, if you had not been plotted against, how could you have ended up like this? Todo, do not have any other requests. Todo looked straight into Lin Feng's eyes. Although the chances are slim, if there's a chance one day, take revenge for your master. His voice was firm, without the slightest hesitation. After being silent for a full 330,000 years, Todo vented all the hatred in his heart. I will. Lin Feng's expression was resolute. If a disciple had the ability to take revenge for his master, it was only right and proper for him to take revenge for his master. Very good. Todo's eyes shone brightly. I did not choose the wrong person. Lin Feng, don't worry. Master told me everything before he died. Furthermore, I have followed him since I was young. I know everything he taught his disciples. Todo's words calmed Lin Feng down, and he nodded. Since he had taken on a master and inherited the Bailey lineage, he had to take on the responsibility. He had an obligation and a responsibility. Master, please rest in peace. Duoduo's voice sounded somewhat sorrowful. He gently pressed down with his fair fingers. Instantly, the ice coffin made of frost began to sink. Don't worry, Master. I will definitely properly guide your final disciple. Leave everything to Duo. A low voice accompanied the ice coffin as it sank into the ground. Let's go, Lin Feng, Todo said softly. Lin Feng quickly returned to the surface with Todo. By the way, Duo, how strong is our teacher? Lin Feng asked curiously. Master, Todo smiled faintly, a hint of pride in his eyes. Master, he is a superpower of the starry sky. Author's note, this chapter will be back soon. I have to consider the overall situation, so it is very difficult to write. Xiao Xiao is anxious. If I write one less chapter, I will earn 200 less. @_. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 296. Universe Elite? Lin Feng took a deep breath, his eyes flashing. What a domineering title. Is teacher very powerful in the Douling world? Lin Feng asked softly. Duo was stunned for a moment. Then he burst into laughter, which confused Lin Feng. Was his question that funny? Douling world. Lin Feng, you underestimate Master too much. Duo looked at Lin Feng and pointed outside. When you came in, did you see those corpses? Lin Feng nodded. There were all kinds of strange shapes and sizes. It seems like there was a fierce battle. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. When he thought of the destroyed Tianya crystal wall, he felt suffocated. An attack that could even destroy a 7-star crystal, how terrifying would that be? It was hard to imagine. And they had a common characteristic. Although they were dead, their bodies did not rot. They were exactly the same as his teacher. They are all Universe Elite. Their bodies are indestructible, and they have endless lifespan. Time pales in front of them. Even if they die, their bodies will not be damaged at all, Duo said indifferently, then suddenly changed his tone. But, in front of Master, they are still vulnerable. Lin Feng's expression couldn't help but change slightly when he heard Lin Feng's voice. From Duo's tone, his teacher was shockingly powerful. Any one of them can easily destroy a planet, such as Douling World. Lin Feng took a deep breath. His heart was filled with shock. What kind of concept was it to be able to destroy a planet with just a wave of the hand? Lin Feng could not imagine. Don't worry. No one will destroy a planet out of boredom. They will be punished by the heavens. Duo said casually. Moreover, the Douling world has the origin imprint of many Universe Elite, including Master. It's almost impossible to destroy it. Lin Feng nodded. Although Todo's words were profound, he could vaguely understand the gist of it. Duo, can I also become a starry sky powerhouse like teacher? Lin Feng's eyes shone with a fiery light. His heartbeat quickened. Lin Feng thought of his complicated background and his father's aged face, and a raging flame ignited in his heart. If he could become a starry sky powerhouse with an indestructible body and an infinite lifespan, he would be able to avenge his father. Even more so, he could firmly control fate. Do you know how many living beings there are in the Do spirit world? Duo asked in a non-committal manner. Lin Feng pondered for a moment. Just the Martial Heaven continent alone had 10 billion people, and this was just one of 10 million islands. On the actual continent of the Do spirit world, there was an extremely vast and boundless area. I don't know. Lin Feng shook his head. It was indeed difficult to estimate. Just the humans alone surpass Orang. Duo's eyes shone brightly. Yiling? Lin Feng was startled. This is a unit of measurement in the universe. Duo stretched out his finger and said, 100 million is a capital, and 1 trillion is a Orang. The number of humans in the Martial Heaven continent, compared to the entire Do spirit world, is not even a fraction. Lin Feng nodded as he listened, feeling a little dizzy. This number was simply too huge, and this is just the number of humans. There are other living beings in the Do spirit world, such as demonic beasts, plants, and so on. Duo said, the Do spirit world has many oceans, far more than the land area. Just the number of demonic beasts alone surpasses the number of humans by 1,000 times. Other living beings can also cultivate to become starry sky powerhouses. Lin Feng was stunned. Of course. Duo's lips curled up as he pointed outside. Of the 15 dead starry sky powerhouses, only 2 were humans. The rest were from various races. For example, demonic beasts can continue to cultivate after transforming into humans, but it is more difficult than humans. For plants, although it is more difficult for them to transform into humans, their cultivation is much smoother and their lifespans are much longer. However, with so many living beings in the Do spirit world, it is difficult for a single starry sky powerhouse to appear in hundreds of thousands of years. Duo smiled. Lin Feng let out a long breath. Duo's words were simply too shocking. He found it hard to digest. To break through to become a starry sky powerhouse, you need a certain opportunity and his approval. Duo pointed at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was stunned, but Duo didn't explain too much. To you, this is still too far away. Although I hope that you can inherit the Bailey lineage and take revenge for Master in the future, but everything depends on the will of the heavens. Duo sighed. Even if you use up all the treasures and wealth left behind by Master and spend 100,000 years, or even 1,000,000 years, you can only reach the saint level. Duo said, as for whether you can become a starry sky powerhouse, it depends on your luck. Only one of your senior brothers managed to become a starry sky powerhouse. When he said the last sentence, Dodo's voice became a bit deeper. Saint level? Lin Feng was stunned. What's that? Duo rolled his eyes at Lin Feng. You don't even know the different levels of a martial artist? Lin Feng shook his head. I only know that martial artists are divided into the apprentice level, novice star level, galaxy level, and above. He really did not know. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Listening to Duo's explanation, he felt as if he was looking up at a tall mountain, only to discover that each mountain was taller than the last. In a vast universe, there were countless powerhouses. Oh, Duo said helplessly. All right, let me give you some knowledge. After the apprentice level, martial artists are divided into the heavenly martial artist and the heavenly god. The heavenly martial artist is divided into the martial god and the war god, while the heavenly god is divided into the heavenly spirit master and the heavenly soul master, Duo said. Duo said, cultivation is a process of comprehending heaven and earth and controlling power. Only by condensing a soul heart can you be considered a martial artist. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. It turned out that he had barely become a martial artist. The levels of a martial artist, from low to high, are novice star level, galaxy level, galaxy level, galaxy level, galaxy level, and saint level. As expected, I'm only at the lowest level. Lin Feng thought to himself. Lin Feng silently recited the levels of these martial artists and committed them to memory. Although what Duo said was only the most basic knowledge, it was very useful. Beyond the saint level is the starry sky powerhouse. Duo's eyes shone. The soul is the starry sky. The body is indestructible, and they have an endless lifespan. He would no longer be restrained, free and unfettered, and enjoy the boundless sea and sky. At your teacher's level, even if their soul and body are destroyed, they can be reborn as long as there is a fragment of their cells. Lin Feng's eyes kept changing. It was an eye-opener. Although this rich knowledge couldn't increase his strength, it was very useful to him. However, is he still human? Lin Feng smiled bitterly. If one's soul and body are destroyed, they can be reborn as long as there is a fragment of their cells? Heavens, what kind of monster is this? Don't be surprised. At Master's level, every cell has a soul imprint. Of course, he can be reborn. Duo shook his head, his eyes sad. Unfortunately, the universe is vast. Even if Master spends billions of years, he can't explore even a millionth of it. There are many who are stronger than Master. Lin Feng was shocked. If he didn't compare, he wouldn't know. Now that he was compared, he was like a sandstone in the Douling world. Not to mention, in the vast universe, there were many peerless and talented powerhouses. They were unreachable. However, the road was paved by people. Take one step at a time and cultivate steadily. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. According to Duo, the saint level is already an extremely powerful existence in the Douling world. As long as I can reach this level, Lin Feng clenched his fists, his thoughts were very firm. Even if it took 100,000 years or 1,000,000 years like Duo said. So what? As long as he could walk it, it was the right path. Don't worry, Lin Feng. Although your aptitude is poor, your temperament and willpower are extraordinary. Duo chuckled. Aptitude isn't something that can never be changed. Those with great fortune can also change the heavens and change their fate. However, one's temperament and will are innate. Although they can be tempered, their upper limits are already set. As the saying goes, temperament is determined at 3 years old. This is the principle. Lin Feng nodded in agreement. His father had also praised him for this. With his aptitude to be able to achieve what he had now, his temperament was indeed a huge factor. Aptitude can change? Lin Feng was surprised. Duo's expression said, of course. Otherwise, with your aptitude, how could you meet the standard of an inheritor? Master set the standard back then. You must cultivate 2 souls at the same time, and your aptitude for the War God, Martial God, Sky Spirit Master, and Sky Soul Master must be at least 6th grade. Lin Feng, if you didn't fuse with the Phoenix blood, your War God and Sky Spirit Master aptitudes would be completely unqualified. So that's why Lin Feng understood, but he didn't mind. Aptitude was determined by the heavens. Duo was speaking the truth. But why did teachers set up this selection criteria? Lin Feng asked curiously. Duo said, Master only learned after becoming a starry sky powerhouse that if you want to reach a higher level, both your soul and soul must be compatible. Although you can mend the pen after the sheep is lost when you reach Master's level, the time and effort required is more than 1,000 times more. Moreover, dual cultivators have a deeper understanding of heaven and earth. The benefits they get are incomparable. Even if you become a starry sky powerhouse, your chances are much higher than ordinary martial artists. Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully. It seemed that he had stumbled on the right path. Master once said. Duo smiled. How much water a wooden bucket can hold doesn't depend on the highest plank, but the lowest plank, slowly unveiling the mysterious veil, to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qitian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 297. But Duo's tone suddenly changed. Before we deal with that heavenly hound, I suggest you focus all your efforts on improving your strongest attribute. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he nodded. Indeed, the Douling world was still far away. For now, there was nothing more important than dealing with that heavenly hound. I can't lose again. Lin Feng clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. The scene in the illusion was still vivid in his mind. Half a year later, he was completely powerless as he was swallowed whole along with the black skeleton puppet. This feeling of powerlessness and a deep sense of defeat caused Lin Feng's heart to ache. If he lost, what would the consequences be? Unimaginable. What should I do, Duo? Lin Feng asked in a low voice. Looking at the child who was less than a meter tall, Lin Feng's eyes were filled with longing. He longed to become stronger, to become powerful enough, to protect his family. Heavenly Soul Master Aptitude, 6th grade low. War God Aptitude, 5th grade mid. Heavenly Soul Master Aptitude, 3rd grade high. Martial God Aptitude, 2nd grade low. Duo slowly read out. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. It was his test results. Your best attribute is the Martial God Aptitude. Duo smiled. Because of the fusion of the Phoenix blood, your marrow and meridians have been cleansed. Your aptitude has been completely changed. 2nd grade low. Lin Feng muttered. He was curious. Duo, how are aptitudes divided? Duo shrugged and said, grades 1 and 9 are divided into high, medium, and low aptitudes. Grades 7, 8, and 9 are considered low aptitudes. Normally, it would be difficult for someone to achieve great things, but in reality, more than 99% of the living beings in the Douling world are considered low aptitudes. Grades 4, 5, and 6 are considered medium aptitudes, which is your aptitude from before. Grades 1, 2, and 3 are considered high aptitudes. Lin Feng nodded. No wonder his father said his aptitude was not good. There's a huge gap between each class, Yizichin said. For martial artists with inferior aptitude, even if they spend countless years, reaching the Star Sea level is already the limit. Duo shook his head and said, most martial artists with inferior aptitudes are novice star or even galaxy-level existences. They're like ants in the Do spirit world, mediocre, and they're at the disposal of others as cannon fodder. It's difficult for them to accomplish anything in their entire lives. Lin Feng couldn't help but bitterly laugh. In the Sky Martial Continent, the initial star realm was already an incredible existence, and the galaxy realm was even more unattainable. But in the Douling world, he was just an ant? The gap between them was too big. Why do you think demonic beasts desperately want to transform? Duo smiled faintly. Because if it doesn't transform, even if it's a 7th level Emperor-class demonic beast, it's only equivalent to a 7th level initial level martial artist. Even if you cultivate to the peak level 12, you still can't compare to a level 7 galaxy level warrior. But Star River class level 7 in the Douling world, no sense of existence. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The existence that he had to look up to now was actually no sense of existence. Thinking about it, it made sense. Take the black mist demonic dragon that he saw. Even if it died, it would still desperately transform. Even if the success rate was extremely low, even if it knew it was a dead end, the black mist demonic dragon still stepped onto this path of no return. Who wanted to be an ant? In the Douling world, Star Sea level is very common. If you didn't fuse with the Phoenix blood, even if you spent countless years, Lin Feng's upper limit would probably only be Star Sea level. Duo said faintly. In some ordinary sects, you can be an outer sect disciple or something. Maybe you can occupy a mountain and live a carefree life, but to break through, it's very difficult. The word difficult pierced Lin Feng like a sharp blade. He couldn't help but shake his head with a bitter smile. Unless you're extremely lucky, it's very difficult for a warrior with average talent to become a Star Lord. But Duo's voice paused. For a warrior with high talent, it's very possible. Some can even break through the Star Lord level and become a Star Realm level powerful existence. Star Realm level in the Douling world can basically do whatever they want. They're definitely strong people that all the major forces will fight to recruit. In fact, in the Doling world, only those who reach star realm level could be considered to have stepped into the circle of strong people. Duo looked at Lin Feng meaningfully. Some of the major families and forces don't have many star realm level powerhouses, such as Lin Clan. Duo's words instantly caused Lin Feng's eyes to become serious and quickly changed. Duo you. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. Looking at this old monster in front of him, he seemed to have no secrets in front of him. I know more than you think. Duo smiled pleasantly, then shook his head. But these are all too far away for you. What I can tell you is that if one day you can become one of the top few star realm level powerhouses, your wish will be fulfilled. My wish. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. He carefully digested Duo's words, and his heart was in turmoil, unable to calm down. Duo was referring to, of course, with your current talent, you've basically reached the limit of becoming a star realm level powerhouse. The corner of Duo's mouth raised. But with my help, Lin Feng, you have an 80% chance of stepping into the high and mighty saint level of the Doling world. Saint level. Lin Feng clenched his fist slightly. This was the strongest person in the Doling world. Even those with high-grade talent have less than 1 in 10,000 chance of stepping into the saint level, Duo said. This requires great luck and comprehension. The saint level is the only path to becoming a star realm powerhouse. Then what's the potential of the god beast, Phoenix? Lin Feng was curious. He had only absorbed a single drop of the Phoenix's blood, and his martial god potential had risen to a low grade of grade 2. A true Phoenix, how strong would it be? Top class. Duo replied. Among all the god beasts, the Phoenix can be ranked in the top 10. Born at Star Sea level, young at Star Lord level, mature at Star Realm level, and at the peak of its prime, the Phoenix is a saint-level existence. Duo chuckled. There's no need to cultivate, because the Phoenix itself is formed from the spirit chi of heaven and earth. Lin Feng was speechless. The difference between a god-beast and a human was way too huge. A powerful being with shocking potential within the human race, with a high-grade talent, would have less than 1 in 10,000 chance of becoming a saint-level being. But a god-beast, the Phoenix, did not need to do anything to become a saint-level being at its peak of maturity. That was too hurtful. Do you feel that it's unfair? Duo chuckled. A little. Lin Feng replied honestly and nodded his head gently. Duo chuckled. Which one of the truly powerful beings hasn't gone through trials and tribulations? Even though the starting point of the Phoenix is high, the difficulty of breaking through to become a star realm powerful being is even higher than that of a human. Do you know anything about the transformation of a magical beast, Lin Feng? Lin Feng nodded his head. It's the same logic. For those magical beasts with lower starting points, it's much easier for them to transform. Duo continued. That was indeed the case. The moment Duo said this, Lin Feng was enlightened. Take the black mist demon dragon, for example. Its body was way too strong, and its innate potential was heaven-defying. Therefore, it was extremely difficult for it to transform. Actually, it doesn't matter if it's Star Lord level, Star Realm level, or Saint level. Duo shook his head. There's no difference. Master once said this. Under the stars, everyone is nothing but ants. If you haven't become a Star Realm powerful being, it's useless no matter how strong you are. With the passage of time, you will eventually fall. Under the stars, everyone was nothing but ants. How tyrannical was that? But his master, Bailey Feng, did indeed have that right. Don't think too far ahead. Cultivate step by step. Duo's eyes shone as he said firmly, I want you to reach the Star River level within a month, the Star Sea level within a year, the Star Lord level within 100 years, the Star Domain level within 10,000 years, and finally, spend 100,000 years or even hundreds of thousands of years to become a true powerful being in the Doling world. Lin Feng felt his blood boiling, as if there was a fire burning in his heart. His fighting spirit was incomparably aroused. His cultivation path, following the inheritance of Bailey Feng, had completely opened up. For a rugged path, he had walked onto a bright path. From now on, everything would be smooth sailing. First, I have to reach the Star River level. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he clenched his right fist. He was extremely confident that he would definitely be able to defeat the Heavenly Hound and protect the Sky Martial Continent. He could not fail, since you've already acknowledged me as your master. According to Master's final wishes, everything here is yours. Duo nodded. Oh, Lin Feng smiled. He did not expect there to be such benefits. It was already not bad for an ordinary teacher to be able to teach students, but because of his master's death, even his entire fortune was given to him. Oh my God, that was the entire fortune of a star sky martial artist. How shocking was that? Lin Feng's heart was burning, but Duo's next words were like a bucket of cold water poured over him. However, you cannot reveal your wealth. Master specifically said that only when you reach a certain level of strength can you possess a certain amount of his wealth. If you're not strong enough but still possess a huge treasure, it will only invite disaster. For example, the Qinya crystal that you picked up, if it was in the Douling world, it would be a hot potato. A saint-level existence might not be able to lower their face, but a star domain level warrior would probably cause a mad scramble. Lin Feng nodded as if he understood something. Duo was right. It was like a child holding on to a shiny piece of gold, but without the ability to protect it. In the end, it would only cause a tragedy. How big a head? How big a hat to wear? Lin Feng hesitated. He had picked up a lot of Qinya crystals just now, although most of them were fragments, but when put together, it was still quite a lot. Go to the Starlight Palace to sell, but only a little. Duo gestured. Too much will attract the attention of people. Just this little bit will be enough for you to enjoy for a long time. Starlight points? Lin Feng was startled, but he instantly understood. The Purple Palace at the end of the Alcade Palace? Lin Feng asked in surprise. Yes, it will only be opened after you reach the initial star level. Duo answered. You can sell any item there, you can set your own price, or you can sell it directly. The former price is a little higher, but there is a handling fee. The latter is more direct, but the price is slightly lower. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Lin Feng nodded in realization and smiled. He thought he was worried about not having enough starlight points, but now it seemed it was probably more than enough. Now, let's first receive Master's first inheritance. Duo snapped his fingers and said calmly. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 298. Follow me. Duo looked at Lin Feng with a slightly different gaze. Lin Feng nodded. Although he didn't understand why Duo was looking at him, he still followed. As they slowly walked forward, Duo turned around, his eyes burning with spirit. Do you know where this is, Lin Feng? Training base, no. Lin Feng shook his head. Training base was the name of the hunt. Just the Qinya crystal wall alone was incomparably precious. Not to mention his teacher, just the corpses of the 15 universe elites outside were far beyond the scope of the Douling world. This is a spaceship, Duo said with a smile. Spaceship? Lin Feng's eyes widened in shock. He suddenly recalled the full view he saw in Patian City. It was like a creeping giant beast. Heavens, such a big spaceship? You'll know in a bit. This spaceship is very precious. Even the strongest in the universe would fight to the death for it. Those who died at the entrance of the passageway were killed because of greed. Duo's eyes shone brightly as he said, This spaceship is very precious. Even the strongest in the universe would fight over it. They thought Master was seriously injured and wanted to hit him when he was down, but they didn't know. Even if it was a sick tiger, it's still not something a cat or a dog can compare to. Lin Feng sighed softly. Indeed, a man's heart was never content. This spaceship is called Netherworld. Master gave it this name. Duo pointed around. This is the main cabin. It's the sturdiest and most heavily guarded part of the spaceship. Even if the entire Doling world is destroyed, the main cabin will not be destroyed. Lin Feng laughed bitterly. Duoduo's words were shocking. Fortunately, his adaptability was quite strong. The main cabin is a circular structure. It's made of acute gold crystal. Looking at Lin Feng's confused expression, Duo smiled. You can think of it as an existence thousands of times stronger than the Tianya crystal. The value of the Tianya crystal wall outside is not even a fraction of the acute gold crystal. Lin Feng shrugged. In any case, he was already numb to it. The circular shape is the most solid defense among all the structures. The main cabin is divided into upper, middle, and lower levels. You've already seen the lower level. It's where Master used to train. The middle level is where we're now, the control room of the ship. As for the upper level, we're heading to... As he spoke, Toto stopped. We're here. Lin Feng let out a soft "oh" and looked over. It was a transparent light pillar that was shining brightly. Let's go in. Toto smiled. Lin Feng nodded and stepped in. Instantly, he felt his body move. It was very similar to when he entered the lower level, except that he was floating upwards instead of downwards. Very quickly, with a jolt, Lin Feng stopped. In front of him was a huge white light pillar. It was shining brightly and emitted an intimidating luster. Around the white light pillar, there was a layer of extremely complicated equipment. Tiny buttons were placed on top of each other, showing how intricate the workmanship was. They were at least 30 meters tall. They formed an arc and firmly pinched the light pillar, leaving only a small gap. It was just enough for a person to walk through. This is the true backbone of the Netherworld ship. The control room in the middle level is mainly used to control some basic functions of the ship, including flight, attack, and so on. And this is the heart of the Netherworld ship. Go in. Toto pointed at the only gap, his eyes flickering. This is the first inheritance that Master left for you, and also the biggest inheritance. Although the Netherworld ship can no longer fly, its value is still enough to make the entire Doling world go crazy. The Netherworld ship was left for me? Lin Feng's heart beat faster. He did not expect his teacher to be so generous. After recognizing you as its master, you will be the new master of the Netherworld ship. You will be able to control the entire Netherworld ship. A trace of loneliness flashed in Toto's eyes. He said in a low voice, although I am unwilling, this is Master's order. I have no choice but to obey. Lin Feng pondered over Toto's words. Although he did not understand, it did not matter. In any case, he did not understand most of Toto's words. Stepping into the white light pillar, Lin Feng's eyes flickered. After passing through the small gap, he felt as though he had entered a different dimension. His body was fixed, and a strange energy penetrated his body. He felt a slight pain in his head. In an instant, boom, countless information surged into his mind. It was a huge, egg-shaped object. It was oval in shape and was tens of thousands of meters long. A milky white light enveloped it like a cocoon. It was much bigger than the one he saw in Patian City. This was the main body of the Netherworld ship. I understand. Lin Feng suddenly understood. It turned out that more than half of the Netherworld ship was deeply submerged in the ground. Therefore, what he saw in Heaven-Shattering City was only a half-oval shape like a giant crouching beast. But in fact, it was far more than that. Outside the huge light pillar, Toto floated in the air. His round head looked straight at Lin Feng, and his eyes flickered with wisdom. I hope I did not choose the wrong person. If the heavens are watching over me, one day, Master can be resurrected. Toto murmured softly. As he gazed at the resplendent light of the white pillar of light, a glistening tear appeared in his eyes. Master, Toto missed you so much. As he sobbed, Toto's figure gradually became illusory and the light dimmed, until he disappeared without a trace. Whoosh! Whoosh! All kinds of information, structure, and components of the Netherworld ship were flipped open in Lin Feng's mind like a huge book. There was a lot of complicated information in his mind, but most of it was hard for him to understand. It was filled with too many professional words. Although it was hard to understand, Lin Feng still tried his best to comprehend it. This might be very important to him. 33 levels of heaven, refining room, 9 heavens cloud road. Lin Feng was shocked by the complexity of the Netherworld ship. It was like a large city. Although it was small, it had all the essentials. Although he could not understand many of the facilities, there was no doubt that there was a special purpose for them to exist in the Netherworld ship. He did not understand it because he was not strong enough. He did not know how much time had passed. It might have been 10 seconds, or it might have been 2 hours. Suddenly, the pressing feeling of power slowly relaxed. He was like a stone that slowly melted into the lake. As time passed, the feeling became clearer and more natural. At this moment, Lin Feng, a familiar child's voice, sounded in Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng was startled. Don't be surprised. You have already received Master's first inheritance. From now on, the Netherworld ship belongs to you, Toto said casually. You will have absolute control. As long as you are willing, even I will have no choice but to obey you. Lin Feng was stunned. He vaguely recalled what Toto had just said and seemed to understand something. Let me reintroduce myself. Toto, I am the artifact spirit of the Netherworld ship. Or should I say, I am the Netherworld ship. Toto's words shocked Lin Feng. He did not expect Toto's origins to be like this. Artifact spirit? Could artifact spirits also have intelligence and life like humans? Lin Feng was extremely curious. From today onwards, I will help you control the Netherworld ship and help you become a true expert, Toto said slowly. In principle, you are already my master. However, please forgive me. I cannot call you master. Toto's voice was calm, but Lin Feng understood him very well. This was a completely humanized artifact spirit, an artifact spirit with rich emotions. In his life, Toto was only loyal to his teacher. It's fine. Just call me by my name, Lin Feng said with a smile. He only felt admiration for Toto, not anger. An artifact spirit with such a noble character was worthy of respect. Moreover, Lin Feng did not care about such details. It was just a form of address. Thank you for your understanding, Lin Feng. Toto's voice was filled with joy. However, Lin Feng smiled helplessly. Can you come out and talk? Toto, this feels a little strange. Toto's clear laughter rang out. You will see me when you go out. Lin Feng grunted softly. At this moment, his body was no longer bound and pressured. When he stepped out of the white pillar of light, everything around him seemed to change. It was a psychological change. It was as if he had changed from a house that did not belong to him to his home. White light flashed and gathered. Toto appeared in front of him. This is still much more comfortable, Lin Feng said with a smile. Looking at Toto in front of him, he seemed to feel a sense of familiarity. The barrier and distance between them had completely disappeared. Just like how he and the Black Mist demonic dragon refined puppet had, there was a kind of heart-to-heart communication. Look at your right hand, Lin Feng, Toto said with a smile. Lin Feng looked over, and his eyes lit up. He saw that the place where the dragon-shaped seal had been changed. There was a deep imprint engraved with a mysterious pattern. It was dark and serene, making one unable to take their eyes off it. It was as if they would fall into it. The nether seal, Toto said. It is similar to the Dragonstar seal. No matter where you are, as long as you inject a strand of soul power, you can safely return to the nether ship. Once you activate the nether seal, you can talk to me anytime, anywhere. Toto smiled. Lin Feng nodded. He instantly understood a lot. Are you ready? Toto asked with a smile. Yes. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He knew what Toto meant. He had completed the inheritance of the Bailey clan and received his teacher's first inheritance. Next, he would officially start cultivating. Let's go. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 299. At the border of Tianwu continent, Lin Feng shouted, "Octagonal destruction!" Strong heaven and earth aura spread throughout his body. 8 rays of energy converged to form an intense light and shadow, and diamond-shaped colors intertwined. In an instant, pieces of vacuum cyclones gathered energy and touched each other, forming a shockingly condensed energy. Rumble, 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 rumble. An earth-shattering sound. Silver light filled the sky, and 2 huge diamond-shaped lights intertwined, covering the entire space. Whether it was the silver light or the octagonal area, they were all greatly improved compared to before. Lin Feng looked at the empty area with sparkling eyes and smiled with satisfaction. Not bad. Not only was it completely repaired, even the quality was improved perfectly. Previously, octagonal destruction could only kill magical beasts below Emperor level. Now, not only can it kill first-level Emperor-level magical beasts, it can even seriously injure second-level Emperor-level magical beasts. Its power had increased by nearly 10 times. Roar! The leading blazing wind red dragon was extremely furious. It stomped its feet crazily, and its blood-red eyes were filled with extreme anger. The sky rumbled, and the red horn emitted a scorching light. The blazing wind red dragon was about to reach. However, Lin Feng was not moved at all. Smack! A bright silver light flashed in his hand. It was an inconspicuous piece of metal, and the edge was extremely thin. Go! Lin Feng's eyes burned. As the strong heaven and earth aura surged, the piece of metal let out a shocking hissing sound, like a venomous snake opening its bloody mouth. Wherever it passed, even space was cut open, and it brought about a silver arc at an extremely fast speed. It arrived in the blink of an eye. Roar! The blazing wind red dragon roared, and dense flames gathered in its mouth. But in an instant, a silver light streaked across, and with a silver glow, it directly swept across the scale-covered neck of the blazing wind red dragon. Chi! Blood spurted out, and its body was cut in half. Boom! The flames that had yet to condense suddenly exploded, blowing the blazing wind red dragon's head into pieces. Lin Feng's lips curled into a faint smile. He clenched his right hand, and in an instant, a bright silver light could be seen in the distance. The aurora all returned triumphantly with the tiny metal piece. The power is not bad. Lin Feng gently clenched his left hand. He was very satisfied. It's a pity that this blade fragment can only be released but not retracted. Otherwise, I will be able to control it as I wish. Lin Feng felt a little regretful. This small piece of metal was none other than the fragment of the sword he had picked up in the Netherworld ship. Although it was only so small, its power was not weak at all. However, how can everything be perfect? Lin Feng smiled. When he looked forward, the beast army was in a state of panic, and it was like a group of dragons without a leader. He put away the blade fragment with his left hand, and the silver light in his right hand shone again. The aurora all was like a god of death, and a huge scythe lit up inside the nether ship. It's indeed convenient to cultivate a secret clone. Lin Feng closed his eyes and sat cross-legged. At this moment, Lin Feng was standing in a huge green pond. Bubbles kept popping out of the pond, and the bright green color painted Lin Feng's skin green. Tiny fish scales kept popping out, but they suddenly shattered with a crack, then condensed again, and the cycle repeated. The secret clone fights while the main body cultivates, increasing the strength of a heaven warrior to the greatest extent and strengthening the human soul. Lin Feng exhaled deeply. A piece of black mist demonic dragon's inner core appeared in his right hand, and he put it into his mouth. Instantly, the black mist around the human soul condensed and strengthened. The powerful energy was absorbed effortlessly. As the green pool strengthened the body, the strength of a heaven warrior increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. In order to deal with the arrival of the heavenly hound half a year later, Lin Feng gave it his all. Beginner Star is just the most basic springboard and ladder for both Empyrean gods and Empyrean martial artists. According to Toto, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to pay attention to anything. I just need to cultivate. Don't stop cultivating. Lin Feng focused, and his strength increased rapidly. Absorbing everything hungrily under Toto's arrangement, Lin Feng was on the fast path of cultivation, traveling at full speed. Day after day passed. With enough black mist demonic dragons' inner cores, Lin Feng didn't have to worry about the improvement of the human soul. According to Toto, this was even better than what his teacher had prepared for him. It was a perfect talent-time compatibility. The strength of a martial god depends on the heart of origin. With the heart of origin as the axis, cultivate and temper the body. As the heart of origin becomes stronger, the human soul and body will slowly improve until reaching the limit. Lin Feng muttered to himself. With Toto as his substitute teacher, he was no longer ignorant about the path of cultivation. The entire hazy cultivation system in his mind was completely clear. He was no longer confused, and he didn't need to fumble his way forward. The other martial gods have to cultivate the heart of origin step by step, but I not necessarily. Lin Feng smiled. His heart of origin had fused with the phoenix blood, and it had already mutated. It had the ability to devour. The devouring fire in his hand suddenly appeared, and a burning fire diamond appeared. It was crystal clear and had a hexagonal shape. Every time the flame rose and burned, Lin Feng could feel a surge of power in his heart. The energy of the phoenix's heart of origin continued to increase. Joy and excitement. The devouring fire became more and more ferocious. As for the fire diamond, it was slowly losing its luster. No wonder Toto said that my martial god aptitude is the highest. Lin Feng nodded. Aptitude was a comprehensive evaluation. It didn't only calculate the strength of one's strength, but also the speed of one's cultivation. Although he was only a second-class low martial god, he was a true second-class martial god. As long as he had enough resources, he could use the devouring fire to the limit. Most of the sky martial artists who advance from the initial star level to the galaxy level are either trapped in their body or their soul heart. But I don't need to worry at all. Lin Feng smiled. As the devouring fire seemed to be full, the flames gradually disappeared. Wah! With a light leap, Lin Feng jumped into the green pool again. Although he could strengthen his heart of origin by devouring, and his soul, heart, and body couldn't be strengthened, he didn't need to worry. He could advance on 3 fronts simultaneously. Cultivate separately. The difference was obvious. He had resources and teachers. Lin Feng's current cultivation speed had increased by more than double. Originally, it would take him half a year to reach the 7th stage of the initial star level, but now, it only took him half a month's time. My body and soul heart are already full. Lin Feng jumped out of the green pool. His eyes flickered with a faint light. Compared to half a month ago, he had already made great progress. With a burst of air, the water outside his body evaporated in an instant. 2 days faster than I expected, Lin Feng. Duo rested his chin on his hand and smiled. Yes, after the body fused with the phoenix blood, its vitality increased greatly. Lin Feng nodded. The black mist demonic dragon's inner core and your soul heart are quite compatible. Hey, the effect is not bad. Duo revealed a smirk. How about it? Are you interested in returning to the Black Mist Demonic Dragon Valley? Do you want to hunt and collect more Black Mist Demonic Dragon's inner cores? No. Lin Feng shook his head and declined. Oh. Duo's eyes flashed. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. When a person enters a foot, I enter 10 feet. Since they had established a friendship, he definitely wouldn't do such a thing. In fact, he had even buried the corpses of the more than 300 Black Mist demonic dragons in the Black Mist Purple Ring. I'm just joking. After reaching the Star River level, the efficiency of absorbing the Black Mist demonic dragon's inner cores has decreased. Duo smiled indifferently, and his eyes flickered. Lin Feng, now you're only away from the final breakthrough. Only the improvement of your origin core is left. With your current speed, you only need 10 days to reach the limit of devouring. In total, it's less than a month. Lin Feng smiled knowingly. Duo had once said to him that he would reach the Star River level within a month and the Star Sea level within a year. And now, he was very close to the first step. His body and soul heart were already at the 5th stage, so it was naturally fast to reach the 7th stage. On the other hand, the origin core was slowly cultivated from the first stage, so it appeared to be much slower. But in fact, the speed of the origin core's improvement was the fastest. Don't be happy too early. The Star River level is the real beginning. Duo said seriously. If you want to defeat that heavenly hound, the 5 months after reaching the Star River level are the real key. And now, it's just a necessary path. Yes, Lin Feng nodded. He had already experienced the strength of the heavenly hound. If he wanted to defeat it in half a year, it would indeed not be a simple matter. However, I must win. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He couldn't afford to lose. If he failed, his family might be able to survive, but what about the other humans in the Sky Martial continent? Let's begin, Duo. Lin Feng took a deep breath. In an instant, the devouring flame condensed. Duo smiled indifferently and threw out another fire diamond for Lin Feng to devour and cultivate. In the Doling world, this fire diamond would be an excellent refining material that would make people envious. But here, however, it was just like an ordinary rock. It was only used for cultivation. City in the sky. Ha 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 ha. A hearty laugh sounded. Huang Mang's eyes flashed with confidence. He looked up to the sky and roared. Surging heaven and earth energy covered his body. Among the many rank 7 titled martial gods who absorbed the heavenly treasure crystal, Huang Mang was the first to break through and become a novice star sky martial artist. A few hours after Huang Liang's breakthrough, Xiao also crossed the barrier. The surging natural energy was filled with a strong energy aura, which was different from that of Huang Liang. It was mysterious, and Xiao's ability had improved tremendously. 2 days later, the Laughing Buddha and you also broke through. These titled martial gods who had been stuck at the peak of the rank 7 for a long time naturally broke through the bottleneck faster than Jupiter. The humans in the Sky Martial continent were getting stronger and stronger. There were more and more novice star sky martial artists, forming an advantageous force. And at this moment, Lin Feng had also reached a critical moment. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 300. This time, Duo's estimation was very accurate. In 9.5 days, Lin Feng's fire of devouring had reached a new level. Just as all the 7th rank titled martial gods in the entire Sky Martial continent were breaking through to become beginner-level experts, Lin Feng, he launched a powerful sprint towards the galaxy level. A qualitative upgrade, with the heart of origin as the lead. With the human soul as support, slowly relaxed the body. Lin Feng's legs were crossed as he sat on a golden wheel. A faint aura was emitted from the wheel, forming an illusory energy flow around Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng's eyes were tightly closed. At this moment, he was following Duo's instructions to cross the level of life. Once a demonic beast transformed into a human, its strength would be at the galaxy level. The galaxy level was a hurdle, a rather difficult hurdle. Although compared to demonic beasts, humans did have less pain and twists and turns of transformation. But it was not a simple matter. Powerful flames filled his body and continued to spread. However, Lin Feng's expression became more and more serious. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and his aura dissipated. Another failure. Breaking through was not an easy task. Take your time, don't be anxious. Follow my instructions, step by step. Lin Feng, you are too impatient. Duo floated in the air and smiled faintly. Lin Feng nodded lightly and closed his eyes again. Indeed, he was a little too impatient. He wanted to enter the galaxy level as soon as possible and increase his strength as soon as possible. However, it seemed to have the opposite effect. Calm down. This is not difficult. Lin Feng took a deep breath and adjusted his state of mind. As the golden wheel below rotated, Lin Feng once again entered the empty realm of consciousness. His mind was completely focused. 3 steps, 1 step at a time. Don't think about anything and relax. Lin Feng said to himself as Duo's words appeared in his mind. Slowly, he felt the origin core that was filled with intense flames, like a proud phoenix raising its head. Compared to the previous bare appearance, the current phoenix seemed to have fully developed its wings and was filled with powerful boldness. Initial star, peak of the 7th step. Rise. Lin Feng's eyes focused. In an instant, the heart of origin emitted a bright light. The phoenix seemed to be howling, and bright flames spread out. With the experience of multitasking, Lin Feng was able to control it as he wished. It filled every corner of his body, and the energy of heaven and earth enveloped the flames, merging into his body. From the outside, Lin Feng's body was fiery red, as if it was burning. The first step is complete. Duo's eyes shone brightly. A good start, Toto said in a carefree manner. Lin Feng's ability to adjust himself is pretty good. 1 step, 1 step. Lin Feng carefully controlled the flame. The first step was the most crucial, and it also tested one's patience the most. His failure just now was because he was too anxious, causing him to be unable to control the flames as he wished. But now it's done. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Every part of his body was filled with power. Lin Feng's mind appeared again, and he became slightly more focused. The second step began. The golden wheel's rotation gradually accelerated. As Duo's hands kept moving, the golden light emitted by the golden wheel became denser and denser. Powerful energy of heaven and earth gathered outside Lin Feng's body and seeped into his body from all directions, heading straight for the origin core. Attract, Duo said softly. The origin core was different from the origin core. The origin core had powerful autonomous abilities and offensive abilities. However, the origin core was like a heart that was passively beating. It only had defensive abilities, like a farmer who was silently working. It's coming. Lin Feng closed his eyes, but he could still feel the powerful energy of heaven and earth. If he wanted to break through on his own, it would only happen when the origin core's power was strong enough. But now, with Duo's help, it was easy for him to forcefully activate it and use the energy of heaven and earth to cause the origin core to fluctuate. This was the allocation of resources, the difference between having and not having a teacher. He could save a lot of time on cultivation. Wah! It was like thunder stirring up the earth's fire. Thunder rumbled. The origin core spun rapidly as if his home was being invaded. His soul power was constantly released. Over and over again, it was extremely crazy. On the contrary, as the energy of heaven and earth surged in, the energy clouds outside the origin core grew denser and denser. One side increased, the other side decreased. Slowly, a strange balance was formed. Pure soul power gathered and spread to every corner of his body, fusing with the flame, intertwining and condensing. It was originally a part of his body. Naturally, there was no difficulty in fusing it. It's starting, Lin Feng thought to himself. The essence of the second part was going on at the same time. As Lin Feng split his attention to control the two, he felt that his human soul heart was slowly changing. Time passed slowly. The red glow on Lin Feng's body became more and more intense. At his heart, the skin was expanding and contracting violently. At this moment, he had reached a convergence point. Very good. Duo smiled. Other than the mistake at the beginning, Lin Feng did not make any mistakes in the second step. It was enough to see how strong his temperament was. He could completely control his emotions. His willpower was very strong. Pa! The origin core completely changed. The two types of energy intertwined, causing the origin core to become like a cocoon. The dense energy of heaven and earth tightly wrapped around it. The shocking energy of heaven and earth completely gained the upper hand and kept seeping in. At this moment, As the soul power decreased, the origin core was like a nest. The original owner gradually left, and the new owner slowly moved in. Bit by bit, it slowly seeped in. At this moment, the fusion of soul power and flame in every corner of his body was nearing its end. It's about time, Lin Feng thought to himself. Success or failure depends on this. The third step start. His blood vessels seemed to be bursting. The energy of the flame continued to seep into his skin. The intense pain kept attacking him. Lin Feng tried his best to endure it. At this moment, the transformation of the origin core had reached a huge bottleneck. The golden wheel spun crazily, bringing about the absorption of heaven and earth energy. It was the final push to the origin core. Chi. Streams of energy seeped in. The essence of the origin core was being changed. The original owner had been completely expelled. As for the new owner, at this moment, he was consolidating his territory. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Every second was so torturous. Lin Feng only felt that his heart could not bear it anymore. He was enduring a huge pressure. His body was heavy, as if he was suffocating. As his hands and feet slowly became numb, the pain in his heart increased. Finally, the origin core had reached its limit. Energy rapidly gathered and poured in. In an instant, bang, it was as if it had exploded. In his heart, the explosion of the origin core produced a huge amount of energy. It was as if it had become a fuse, igniting the war in every part of his body. Lin Feng opened his eyes with a whoosh. His eyes were sharp, and some veins appeared on his forehead. He clenched his fists tightly. The blood-red color of his body followed the fluctuation of the soul power. Under the push of the explosive energy, it transformed again. The original skin kept exploding and condensing. It exploded again, like forging a weapon. The new skin was constantly forged and tempered until it reached the most perfect level. At the same time, the astonishing explosive energy passed through the 5 meridians of his limbs. The warrior wheel on his right foot lit up brightly. The influx of energy was like 100 rivers flowing into the sea, rushing straight to the origin core. That was the foundation of the battle god. The origin core was shrouded in mist. A smooth star could be vaguely seen, slowly rotating on its own. Without the company of the nebula, this star had shrunk by nearly 10 times compared to when it was at the beginning of the star system. It was like a newborn baby. However, the energy was tens of millions of times greater. Around the star, it was as if a starry sky was densely packed. Countless soul power light spots were scattered and bright, absorbing the energy of the star and constantly shining. It was as if the stars in the starry sky were shining bright and resplendent. It was as if a galaxy. This was the origin of the galaxy level. At the beginning of the star system, the composition of the origin core was based on soul power, just like a human's body. The energy of heaven and earth was just an existence of the nebula. It wrapped around the body and was a foreign object, like clothes worn outside the body. But now it had changed. Using heaven and earth energy to form the origin core was the symbol of the galaxy level. The rotation could produce heaven and earth energy as if the body was a part of the world. Not to mention the strength, just the cultivation alone, it was completely different. If the beginning star was outside of this world, then the galaxy level was inside this world. The difference in cultivation speed and strength formed the most fundamental contrast. At this moment, soul power and flames were constantly transforming every inch of the body, strengthening every cell. Splitting, strengthening, splitting again. Intense pain assaulted his body, but Lin Feng clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. His willpower was quite strong. Good fellow. Duo laughed. He completed the 3 steps more than once and can still endure this pain. Duo couldn't believe it, but he knew how intense the pain was. Every inch of the skin on his body was constantly being torn apart, growing longer and being torn apart again. How could it not be painful? But Lin Feng persisted. He bit his lips until they turned purple, but he didn't make a sound. This little bit of pain is nothing. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Since young, he had been able to endure pain. Slowly, the new skin grew. Under the tempering of the flames, it reached a new level of toughness. Every meridian in his body was changed, and every inch of his skin was strengthened. As the flames slowly dissipated, the phoenix formed by the origin core shone brightly with red light, intertwining with the martial god wheel on his right leg. It was as if... What was it trying to do? To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 301. Oh, Duo snorted softly. He looked at Lin Feng. At this moment, a faint red light flickered in his dantian, reflecting the martial god wheel on his right foot. Gradually, the red light became brighter and brighter, and a series of loud popping noises could be heard from the air. Lin Feng's physique is actually so compatible with the phoenix blood. For humans, it seems, Duoduo's expression was shocked and surprised. He focused his eyes and looked straight at Lin Feng. He suddenly revealed a helpless smile. Since it had already happened, why should he worry about it? Lin Feng was surprised. As his body changed drastically, the martial god will on his right foot lit up. His heart of origin also changed. The phoenix seemed to be howling, and the loud cry went straight into his mind. In an instant, Lin Feng felt that he had entered a huge red sea. In the boundless sea of phoenixes spread their wings and flew, resting in that dreamlike treasure land. The air was filled with a scorching aura. Looking at everything in front of him, his heart and soul were violently fluctuating. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. Oh my God, this is the place where phoenixes live? So many. He seemed to have entered a sea of divine beasts. The air filled with air made his heart beat faster. At this moment, scorching airflow surged from all directions, and his vision was instantly covered by a red aura. Lin Feng only felt his mind shake, and a strange energy inexplicably surged into his body. It was difficult to distinguish between reality and illusion in front of his eyes. It was like a dream, and a bright light blazed and appeared. Whoosh! The heart of origin changed. With the cry of the phoenix, the heart of origin flickered with a bright light. The red shadow gradually faded. From the head to the tail of the phoenix, there seemed to be a ray of light running through it. 7 light spots lit up like starlight. What is this? Lin Feng was surprised. According to Duo, after entering the galaxy level, the changes in the heart of origin were not like this. The flame aura spontaneously surged and crazily. The 3rd light spot at the tail of the phoenix suddenly bloomed with an astonishing luster. Intense flame energy poured out and gathered in an instant. Lin Feng felt his breathing become rapid, as if a huge black hole had opened. In an instant, whoosh whoosh, he absorbed it crazily. The flames in the heart of origin and the energy hidden in his body disappeared in an instant. Bang! Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes widened as if something in his body had exploded. With a thought, a huge flame appeared in his hands, burning fiercely. Compared to the original devouring fire, it was more than 10 times stronger. So strong. Lin Feng was shocked. The bright red light spots seemed to gather all the flames, and his senses were countless times clearer than before. Every time he sensed the flames, the intensity of the flames would increase by 10-fold. Bang! Flames! The flames were ferocious, but Lin Feng's eyes were even brighter. Oh my God, what's going on? Lin Feng's eyes were filled with joy. The heart of origin seemed to have mutated, but his strength was increasing crazily. Looking carefully as the flames of devouring burned, the original blue color had completely evolved. In a fiery red light, there was an incomparably beautiful indigo color. The further one went, the harder it was to improve. But this time, Lin Feng laughed heartily. His eyes widened, and his hands instantly condensed the flames into a ball. almost in an instant. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth curled up. He controlled it as he pleased, as if it was mud in his hands. The fireballs intertwined and circled, constantly changing in his hands. Lin Feng was like a child who got a toy. He was overjoyed. It's too easy. What is going on? How did my flame sensing ability and control ability improve so much all of a sudden? Lin Feng did not understand, and it was indeed difficult for him to understand. What happened just now was completely beyond the scope of the beginner level. Although his strength seemed to have increased, but my martial god's wheel? Lin Feng frowned slightly. His right foot had returned to its original state, as if nothing had happened. However, the martial god's wheel in his right foot, the 7 faintly shining light spots, seemed to have disappeared. It was very bizarre. Gain at the swings and lose at the swings. It's really strange. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. At this time, with the final mutation of the Heart of Origin, the process of advancing from beginner level to galaxy level, it was completely over. Well done, Lin Feng. Toto smiled. Looking at the child floating in the air, looking at him with satisfaction, Lin Feng smiled back. Thank you, Toto. Without Toto's help, his advancement would not have been so smooth. In less than a month, it was completely the original goal. I'm just assisting. It's not a big deal. Toto chuckled. How do you feel? By the way, I have 2 pieces of news, one good and one bad. Which one do you want to hear first? Toto narrowed his eyes. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Good news? The good news is, congratulations, Lin Feng. You're quite lucky. The corners of Toto's mouth curved into a smile. You've perfectly integrated with that drop of Phoenix blood and inherited the Phoenix bloodline. Your Heart of Origin has activated the Phoenix natal chart. Phoenix natal chart? Lin Feng was stunned. Yes, Toto nodded. It's unique to divine beasts. It's divided into 5 natal charts: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, as well as 2 natal charts, yin and yang. Seeing the confused look on Lin Feng's face, Toto explained, humans have 4 cultivation paths from martial artists to starry sky powerhouses. They're the path of the martial god, the path of the war god, the path of the heavenly spirit master, and the path of the heavenly soul master. However, divine beasts only have one path, which is to light up their natal chart. Every divine beast's fate plate is equal. Lighting up the natal chart will increase the beast's strength. As long as the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth astrolabe are all lit up, the divine beast's strength will reach the saint level. Toto's explanation was profound, but Lin Feng vaguely understood. In other words, the natal chart was the Phoenix's cultivation path. Inheriting the Phoenix's bloodline? Lin Feng smiled. That's good news. Indeed. Toto nodded. Integrating with the Phoenix's blood and being completely compatible with it are 2 completely different things. To be honest, I didn't expect a human to be completely compatible with the Phoenix's blood. Normally speaking, only other magical beasts with the Phoenix's bloodline can achieve this. Toto shook his head and smiled. No matter what, it's already happened. You possess the Phoenix's bloodline. Lin Feng, your martial god aptitude evaluation has changed. You've reached the 1st rank. 1st rank? Lin Feng felt his heartbeat quicken. His aptitude had actually increased by an entire level all of a sudden. The difference between 1st and 2nd rank was like the difference between heaven and earth. Even if it was only 1st rank, it was already frightening enough. Your strength has indeed increased a lot, but Toto shook his head. Your future path will be much more difficult than before. This is why your aptitude is only 1st rank. Normally speaking, since you're compatible with the Phoenix's blood, Lin Feng, your aptitude should be 1st rank. Oh, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He understood what Toto meant. It seemed like, what were the side effects? This is the bad news I want to tell you, Toto said softly. Humans are different from divine beasts. Take the Phoenix, for example. It's compatible with the heavens and earth. When it reaches the peak of its prime, all 5 natal charts of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth will light up. However, humans are different. Take Lin Feng, for example. You have a high compatibility and sensitivity to the Tao of fire. But what about the other Tao? When it comes to the Tao of metal, wood, water, and earth combined, it's not as good as the Tao of fire. The promotion of the martial god's level depends on the heart of origin. Duoduo's words carried a slight sigh and a hint of helplessness. Lin Feng's eyes kept changing. He understood what Toto was saying. It was not difficult to understand. If he wanted to promote the martial god's level to the Star Sea level, the Star King level, or even higher, the heart of origin was the most important thing. If he followed his original plan and trained slowly, he would advance step by step. But now, he had already taken a different path on the Tao of the martial god. He was walking the path of the divine beast, the phoenix. Although he had benefited a lot from this path, and his strength had increased greatly, it was as if he had taken a shortcut. However, this path was much more difficult than the original path. According to what Duo had said, absorbing the elemental essences of metal, wood, water, and earth was not an easy task for him. There were gains and losses. Is there a solution? Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Lin Feng, your compatibility with the other types of origin energy is too low. If you force yourself to cultivate and absorb them, the efficiency will be very slow. Toto shook his head. On the path of the martial god and the celestial spirit master, you will be left far behind by the path of the heavenly soul master and the martial god. Unless, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Toto's words did not seem to be without a solution. Hunt other divine beasts and take their natal plates. Toto's eyes shone brightly. Hunt divine beasts? Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. He was completely shocked. This was not hunting ordinary demonic beasts. My God, it was divine beasts. Hunting down divine beasts of the metal, wood, water, and earth elements and seizing their natal discs. Toto chuckled. Who knows? You might even be able to cultivate faster and more conveniently. However, it's not an easy task to find other mythological beasts in their infancy. Lin Feng smiled bitterly and nodded. Easier said than done. Take phoenixes, for example. They were born at the Star Sea level, young at the Star Lord level, mature at the Star Domain level, and at the peak of their prime, they were at the Saint level. Other divine beasts were weaker than phoenixes, but not by much. Born at the Star Sea level. AI, let's just fight and forget about it. Lin Feng felt a little helpless. Don't be discouraged. I actually have two other pieces of good news for you. Toto smiled. You'll definitely be very satisfied with one of them. Oh, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 302. If you activate the Burning Life Star Plate, the battle in 5 months. Duo paused for a moment, then smiled and said, Lin Feng, your chances of winning against that celestial hound will increase to 80%. Really? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. From 50% to 80%, it wasn't just an increase of 30%. Instead, it was a fundamental change in strength. 50% meant that their strengths were similar and the outcome was hard to predict. But 80%, in other words, if there were no accidents, he would be able to defeat the heavenly dog. Of course, the divine beast natal plate isn't ordinary. Duo nodded and said, although it's difficult to break through, the divine beast natal plate is much stronger than the martial god wheel. In terms of control and application of fire, the Phoenix is definitely in the top 3 among all the divine beasts. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Although it was an arduous task to raise the martial god level from the galaxy level to the Star Sea level, the martial god level was still a very difficult task. But what was lost at the swings, what was gained at the swings? His strength at the Star River level would increase tremendously. This was very important. If I can survive this calamity, so what if the road in the future is a little bumpy? Lin Feng smiled. For him, the biggest problem was the battle in 5 months. He couldn't afford to lose it. 80% is enough. Lin Feng clenched his fist, his eyes filled with confidence. If I can break through and advance in these 5 months, the chances will increase to 90%, or even 100%. I will win. Lin Feng was very determined. What's the second good news, Duo? Lin Feng raised his head and asked curiously. Duo smiled and revealed a satisfied expression. He crossed his arms in front of his chest. The words that came out of his childish voice astonished Lin Feng. The second piece of good news is that since the martial god wheel has disappeared, Lin Feng, your strength will increase once again. Lin Feng was puzzled. The disappearance of the martial gods will cause his strength to increase instead? The original 80% chance will be raised to, Toto smiled, 90%. Advanced cultivation space. The nether seal in his hand flickered as Lin Feng directly entered. Here we go again. 33 layers of heaven. Lin Feng smiled. According to Duo, this Treastrimsa heaven was moved here around 250,000 years ago, Duo said. No wonder it's in the outer region of the nether ship. Lin Feng nodded. The entire netherworld ship was like a ship. The outer area was the deck of the ship. It was originally empty, but during the past 330,000 years, various instruments were constantly moved in. The inner part of the netherworld ship was the cabins, which were guarded by many guards. It was like a locked gate that no one could enter. The 33rd heaven is also known as the apprentice training camp. It's connected to a part of the apprentice training camps in the Doling world. No wonder there are apprentice courses and apprentice exams. Lin Feng smiled. With Toto's explanation, his previous doubts were completely resolved. Arcade Hall. Actually, there was another name for it. Training camp store. This type of store was as common as the hairs on a cow in the Doling world. Even if it's just a training camp store, it's still very useful to me. Lin Feng stepped in. A gentle light flickered, and he instantly entered the last Starlight Hall. Only those who had reached the novice level were qualified to enter. A purple light shone brightly. Welcome, Galaxy-class warrior. A pleasant voice sounded. Lin Feng's vision blurred. He seemed to have entered a magical space. A beautiful woman in a red and white uniform appeared in front of him. She was bowing slightly to him. As expected, Lin Feng said. Just as Toto said, the reason why the Starlight Hall required those who were the novice level to enter was because it was a real virtual world exchange. The beautiful woman in front of him was like a waiter in a store, welcoming him warmly. Lin Feng immediately followed and looked around curiously. This was a place to sell goods and obtain Starlight points. It was a vast expanse of white, and there was nothing special about it. Please have a seat. The beautiful woman smiled. Lin Feng nodded slightly and sat down. In front of him, a handsome man in a black and red uniform was looking at him with a smile. Hello, Galaxy-class warrior. May I know if you're selling goods or consignment goods? The handsome man asked politely. Selling. Lin Feng didn't hesitate. Selling was to exchange for Starlight points. The price was slightly lower, but the time required to buy and sell was extremely short. On the other hand, consignment was in the Arcade Hall. After paying a certain fee, the goods could be placed for sale. The price was slightly higher, but the time required was extremely long. Sometimes, because the price was too high, the goods couldn't be sold. Both had their pros and cons. The handsome man smiled and nodded. He was responsible for appraisal and valuation. With a flash of his right hand, Lin Feng immediately took out a small crystal. The faint light was almost invisible to the naked eye. He gently placed it on the table. The handsome man exclaimed softly. He looked at the small crystal and then looked at Lin Feng curiously. He revealed an unnatural smile. Respected Galaxy-class warrior, do you want to sell this crystal? But isn't it? After hesitating for a while, the handsome man didn't continue. He was just reminding him out of politeness. It was too small. It was so small that it was like a speck of dust, completely invisible. However, Lin Feng's expression was still calm. Help me estimate the price. The handsome man was stunned and frowned slightly. Just as he was wondering if the Galaxy-class warrior in front of him was here to cause trouble, Lin Feng's voice suddenly sounded. Whether it's valuable or not, you'll know with one look. Oh, the handsome man's expression turned slightly serious. Could it be a star crystal? Muttering in his heart, the handsome man didn't dare to be careless. He immediately took out a magnifying glass and gently held the crystal fragment in his left hand. He focused his eyes and carefully observed it. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The handsome man's expression slowly changed from calm to serious, from nervous to shocked, and finally, pa! The chair seemed to shake. The handsome man's expression changed greatly. Oh my God, this is 7-star crystal, Tianya crystal. The handsome man felt suffocated and looked at Lin Feng inexplicably in horror. Yes, Lin Feng was a man of few words. In fact, Duo had told him before, unless it was necessary, he couldn't reveal anything else. The more he said, the more mistakes he made. Respected Galaxy-class warrior, please wait. The handsome man was a little flustered and ran out of the door. It's just as Duo said. Lin Feng shook his head. A 7th-grade crystal was too precious in the Douling world. Even if it was just a small fragment, it was still priceless. He waited slowly. Not long after, the handsome man brought along an old man with a white beard. His expression was solemn. When their eyes met, Lin Feng suddenly felt a sharp gaze. Even in this virtual world, the old man with a white beard could give him a strong pressure with just his gaze. It was completely imaginable how strong he was in the real world. But the virtual world was just a virtual world. Little brother, may I ask where this Tianya crystal came from? The old man with a white beard's eyes were bright. If you can tell me, my Cloud Commerce Alliance will definitely reward you greatly. Lin Feng shook his head. Please help me appraise it. May I know who your master is? The old man with a white beard asked again. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. Please help me appraise it. The old man with a white beard frowned, but did not want to give up. Little brother, you... Before he could finish, Lin Feng had already stood up. The old man with a white beard hurriedly said, Wait, little brother, this old man is just curious. This Tianya crystal is worth 10 billion starlight points. Do you want starlight points, or exchange it for the same amount of Douling coins? As he spoke, the old man with a white beard's eyes flashed. Starlight points will do, Lin Feng said indifferently. The old man with a white beard's face showed a hint of disappointment. He then said, I wonder if little brother has any other Tianya crystals for sale? No, Lin Feng said and turned to leave. Since the transaction was completed, there was no need to stay any longer. Soon, Lin Feng disappeared without a trace. Hua! A light flashed. A blue-clothed man appeared in an instant with his hands behind his back. He had a heavy and oppressive aura. Greetings to President Liu. The handsome man and the old man with a white beard bowed. The blue-clothed man raised his hand. No need to be so courteous. Elder Ming, did you find out anything? The old man with a white beard shook his head. No, this little guy is very careful. He didn't even use Douling coins. We can't find out anything about his identity. The blue-clothed man muttered. Since that's the case, let's forget about this matter. Just pay more attention. His actions are so secretive. He might be a disciple of some strong warrior. If you can get some points, then do it. If you can't, then don't offend him. Help him exchange it for starlight points. Give him an extra 20%. Yes, President Liu. The old man with a white beard bowed and replied. Lin Feng did not know that he had caused a huge uproar. At this moment, the netherworld seal flickered and changed. Lin Feng looked over and could not help but reveal a faint arc. The starlight points that were originally used up by him had now increased from less than 100,000 to a total of 12 million. 12 billion starlight points. There's actually an extra 2 billion? Lin Feng laughed. This Cloud Commerce Alliance is quite generous. But then again, this Tianya crystal is really valuable. Just this little bit is actually worth 10 billion. No, 12 billion starlight points. As expected of the legendary 7-star crystal, Lin Feng sighed softly and felt that it was inconceivable. It was difficult to make a hero with money. That day in the Black Mist demonic Dragon Valley, he had to tighten his belt and was very careful with his spending. But now, I'm rich, huh? Lin Feng laughed heartily. A total of 12 billion starlight points. He had already become a rich man. Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he looked at the Arcade Hall. Soon after, he strode in. Sweet begin. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 303 City in the Sky. Ziyao, Huang Mang, Laughing Buddha, and the others were all gathered. At this time, there were a total of 4 people who had successfully broken through to rank 7 titled Martial God. May I know why Lin Shou called us here? Laughing Buddha asked in surprise. Could it be Lin Shou allowed us to participate in the battle? Huang Mang's eyes lit up. Prison shrugged. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Everyone here knew that the person closest to Lin Feng was Ziyao. Maybe it's something good. Ziyao smiled, whetting everyone's interest. Although she knew a lot, some things were better done by Lin Feng himself. The atmosphere was a little strange. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. Although they were all in high positions, as the alliance leader of the 5 great sects and the president of the Tianwu Chamber of Commerce, Huang Mang and Laughing Buddha were both highly respected by Lin Feng. Heroes cherished heroes. Without Lin Feng, the Tianwu continent would have been destroyed long ago. Under everyone's anticipation, very soon, Lin Feng appeared. With a carefree smile, Lin Feng stepped in. Looking at the face of his dreams, he smiled and nodded. Because they were busy cultivating, they hadn't seen each other for many days. But this didn't affect their feelings for each other. Both of them knew very well what time it was. They couldn't afford to be distracted. Sorry for making you wait. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. You're welcome, Lin Shou. Laughing Buddha smiled. Yes, your time is precious. It's fine if we wait a little longer. Huang Mang also smiled. Lin Feng was indifferent to their compliments and respect. In an instant, 2 different lights flashed from his hands. One was black, the other white, as if they were resonating with each other. They were 2 spherical objects that seemed to be made of countless scales. But if one looked carefully, they didn't look like spheres, but were made of countless tiny crystals. The workmanship was very delicate. 4-star spirit treasure, glazed black and white sphere. Lin Feng introduced. Then, he waved his hands and sent the black and white balls flying towards Huang Liang and the smiling Buddha respectively, accompanied by a powerful force. It was as fast as lightning. The 2 of them jumped in fright, but the balls stopped abruptly. Huang Liang and the smiling Buddha broke out in a cold sweat. The sphere in front of them was filled with a strong pressure of power, which was enough to kill them if used as a hidden weapon. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and the corners of his mouth curved indifferently. His casual display of strength was enough to intimidate people. One must always be on guard against others. He remembered Zhu Padi's example very clearly. This is a combo-type offensive numinous treasure. Lin Feng said indifferently, the glazed black sphere is used for offense, while the glazed white sphere is used for defense. They can be used separately or in tandem to complement each other. If it can be used perfectly, its power won't be inferior to a 5-star spirit treasure. Huang Liang and the smiling Buddha's eyes lit up. Lin Feng smiled. This 4-star spirit treasure cost him a total of 12 million starlight points. If it was in the past, it would undoubtedly be a sky-high price. But now, to him who had 12 billion starlight points, it was just a drop in the ocean. This is a secret manual of control. Lin Feng casually threw a thin book to them, which was translated by himself in the advanced cultivation space. Once you mastered it, follow me to the battlefield to hunt demonic beasts. Lin Feng said slowly, this is a group attack type numinous treasure. With your strength, although you can't hunt emperor-level demonic beasts, it's more than enough to deal with ordinary king-level demonic beasts. With one attacking and one defending, you can ensure damage and defend your position. Most importantly, The two of you can use it alternately. All right, go back and think about it. There was a faint tone of superiority in Lin Feng's voice, but Huang Liang and the Laughing Buddha did not mind it at all. They were overjoyed to find such a precious treasure, and they were so happy that it would melt if they held it in their palms. After thanking Lin Feng repeatedly, they left in a flash. For martial artists, numinous treasures and weapons were very important. Looking at the backs of the two leaving, Yu's eyes were flickering with envy. It's your turn, Yu. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Oh, just as you reacted, he was wild with joy. Lin Feng took out a set of armor, a giant golden ring that floated in front of you, and introduced 4-star armor, golden brilliance armor. 5-star numinous treasure, 1,000-layer sniper blade. The golden brilliance armor can protect your life, and the 1,000-layer sniper blade can kill all demonic beasts below Emperor level. You stared blankly at the two numinous treasures, so shocked that he couldn't speak. At this moment, Ziyao, on the other hand, burst into laughter. She was like a beautiful violet in full bloom. What are you laughing at? Lin Feng turned around and asked curiously. Lindigo, you're really biased. Ziyao smiled sweetly. After Ziyao's reminder, you remembered that Lin Feng only gave Huang Liang and the Smiling Buddha a 4-star numinous treasure, but gave him not only a 5-star numinous treasure, but also a 4-star armor. Indeed, it's good that he's biased. You thought to himself. He picked up the two numinous treasures and grinned from ear to ear. Of course, Lin Feng smiled. After all, we're on the same side. To be honest, he was just using Huang Liang and the Smiling Buddha. But for his brothers in the hunt, he would naturally help them as much as he could. Just the 5-star numinous treasure, 1,000-layer sniper blade, cost 100 million starlight points, but Lin Feng didn't feel the pinch at all. It was worth it. Cultivate well. Lin Feng also threw a thin book over. Good. You couldn't hide his excitement as he hugged the two numinous treasures and flew away. He couldn't wait to study them and master their essence. Thinking that he would soon be able to go to the battlefield and slaughter demonic beasts, he was extremely excited. Finally, he had a chance to show his strength. Looking at Yu's happy expression, Lin Feng smiled. Whether it was Huang Liang, the Smiling Buddha, or even Yu, he did need their strength. Perhaps it wasn't very useful now, but when the demonic beasts attacked in half a year's time, tens of billions of demonic beasts would come out in full force. He wouldn't be able to handle it alone. It wasn't that he didn't have enough strength, but he had limited energy. The scene in the illusion was still deeply imprinted in Lin Feng's mind. That day, when he couldn't use the Aurora all, he was in a very sorry state. What about me? Ziyao's beautiful eyes moved slightly as she smiled and reached out her hand. However, she revealed a rare girlish side of her as she joked with Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and reached out his hand to gently hold her small jade-like hand. No. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Ziyao was stunned. I don't want you to take the risk. Lin Feng's eyes were gentle as he looked at Ziyao's surprised expression. Lin Feng suddenly smiled. Ziyao, you don't need to deal with these small fries. Just leave it to Huang Liang and the others. Their talent is already at the peak, and even if they are nurtured with all their might, it's still unknown whether they can reach the Star River level. But you're different. Lin Feng looked at Ziyao. Ziyao was curious. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly as he recalled what Toto had said to him. Other than you, the person with the strongest talent to become a celestial spirit master is Feng Ning. The person with the strongest talent to become a martial god is Zhupati. The person with the strongest talent to become a war god is Xiao Jian. And the person with the strongest talent to become a heavenly soul master. Ziyao, have you ever thought of taking the other path of becoming a heavenly god? Lin Feng smiled. Ziyao's beautiful eyes flickered. Big brother Lin, do you want me to give up the path of a sky spirit master and walk the path of a sky soul master? Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Ziyao, since the attribute of your fate spirit is space, it would be more suitable for you to cultivate as a heavenly soul master. By cultivating the fate spirit, one would become a heavenly god. Once one reached the initial star level and condensed a soul core, the attribute of the fate spirit would appear. For example, Lin Feng's fate spirit was time, while Zi Yao's was space. In fact, the majority of fate spirits had the attribute of spirit. Generally speaking, in the Douling world, heavenly gods with the attribute of spirit would choose the path of becoming a heavenly soul master. As for those with the attribute of time or space, they would choose to become a heavenly soul master. Of course, the 4 paths of cultivation were not explicitly stated. Lin Feng was one of them. To be honest, Lindigu Xiao also wants to cultivate to become a heavenly soul master, but Xiao smiled helplessly and said softly, "In the Sky Martial Continent, there are no cultivation manuals for heavenly soul masters. Other than becoming a martial god and becoming a heavenly soul master, there are no other paths to choose. The Sky Martial Continent does not have it, but..." Lin Feng dragged out his words and smiled mysteriously. "I do," Xiao exclaimed in surprise. Before she could react, Lin Feng's eyes were already looking outside. Seeing the 2 familiar figures, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Everyone's here. Let's go. Xiao, I'll bring you to a place. Assassin's Alliance. Why are you afraid?" The martial emperor's lips curled up. "How can I, a dignified commander, be afraid?" "Umph." Zhu Pidi raised his nose, but there was a hint of hesitation in his eyes. "This Earth Fiend Road can only be entered by those whose martial god aptitude has reached the 6th grade and above." The martial emperor sighed and looked at Zhu Pidi with envy. He shook his head and said, "If I had a heavenly talent like you, I would have entered long ago. How could it be your turn?" "Of course." Zhu Pidi smiled proudly. Seeing that his talent was recognized, he was naturally happy. "Have you forgotten how miserably you were defeated that day?" The martial emperor sneered. "Like a dog that fell into the water, you were mercilessly humiliated by Lin Feng. Think about it. If not for the commander saving the Sky Martial Continent, how could there be the current Lin Feng? But he was ungrateful and insulted you in every possible way. Can you take this lying down?" Zhu Pidi gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. "Don't you want revenge? Do you want to be a coward for the rest of your life? Or..." The martial emperor's eyes flickered. "Don't say any more," Zhu Pidi roared. His eyes were blood red and filled with extreme hostility. Looking at the pitch-black Earth Fiend Road, he thought about how he was humiliated by Lin Feng again and again. Being chased out of the Sky Martial Army and not tolerated by the Sky Martial Continent. Zhu Pidi's chest heaved up and down. He gritted his teeth and suddenly shouted hysterically, as if he was venting. Then, his body trembled as he walked towards the pitch-black road. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 304. Martial Emperor, This Earth Emanations Road. Green Flood Dragon said in surprise. "It's very dangerous." Martial Emperor shook his head and said, "As long as one is a novice star martial artist, they can enter, but whether they can come out depends on their luck." "Ha, this silly kid is so easy to deceive." Green Flood Dragon laughed. "I didn't deceive him." Martial Emperor's expression was indifferent as he stared at the pitch-black tunnel in front of him and said, "Martial God aptitude is in the low-grade category. The survival rate after entering the Earth Emanations Road is less than 1 in 1,000, almost certain death. But martial God aptitude is in the middle grade category, which is the 6th grade and above. The survival rate is 10%. Isn't that still a 9 out of 10 chance of survival?" Green Flood Dragon said in surprise. "It's not the same." Martial Emperor shook his head. "Probability is just a simple calculation. It doesn't represent everything. And the higher the aptitude, the higher the survival rate. With Zhu Pidi's potential, he might be able to come out alive." Green Flood Dragon made a sound and asked curiously, "Martial Emperor, aren't you afraid that his strength will increase greatly and threaten your position?" With just him laughing, Martial Emperor's eyes were slightly hazy as he said slowly, right now. Lin Feng is my biggest enemy and must be eliminated. The beast riot is second, and finally, it's not too late to slowly consider Zhu Pidi. After all, no matter what, we're still on the same side, and Green Flood Dragon. Do you think Zhu Pidi has the ability to threaten me? Martial Emperor said in surprise. Green Flood Dragon's voice paused. Then he smiled and shook his head. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, without saying anything. Patian City. A bright white light flickered in the huge teleportation array. In an instant, 3 men and 1 woman, 4 figures appeared in an instant. When the surrounding martial artists guarding the teleportation array saw the black-clothed man in the lead, they immediately revealed a surprised expression and knelt down on one knee. Greetings, Hunter. In an instant, the surrounding martial artists all knelt down on one knee to show their respect. It was respect from the bottom of their hearts. There was no pretense. Rise. Lin Feng nodded. A person's name, a tree's shadow. Lin Feng was already fully deserving of the title of Sky Martial Continent. King. The uncrowned king. Even though he had countless titles in the martial heaven continent, such as hero, savior, child of God, etc., Lin Feng still kept the title of Shou Hu, not for any other reason, but because of the meaning behind it. It was something he had always strived for, something he had always pursued. Let's go. Lin Feng turned around and said. Behind him, Ziyao, Fong Ning, and Little Sword responded softly. There was no jealousy or dissatisfaction, because this was the glory that Lin Feng deserved. This was especially true for Ziyao. Although her status was higher than Lin Feng's, she was willing to be Lin Feng's sidekick and accompany him. As a woman, this was actually kind of happiness. Where are we going? Little Sword asked in surprise. You'll know when we get there. Fong Ning smiled faintly. Ziyao's bright eyes gazed ahead. Although she was curious, she still walked quietly beside Lin Feng. The two of them were like 2 celestial beauties. They were a perfect match for each other. Smiling at the beauty beside him, Lin Feng smiled and said, We're almost there, Ziyao. Okay, Ziyao softly replied. As if she had thought of something, she suddenly smiled and said, All right, Lindigo, what are you going to change your title? Title? Lin Feng was startled. Lin Feng, you don't know, but the remaining Shou Hu and Shou, such as Ruan Rodeo and Bing Shuang, don't dare to call themselves Shou Hu now. Little Sword laughed. Lin Feng was surprised. Fong Ning smiled faintly. That would be a kind of disrespect. Oh, Lin Feng nodded and smiled. It was easy to understand if he put himself in their shoes. With him, the Shou who would dare to offend the world? It doesn't matter. Lin Feng smiled and said, Anyway, it won't be long before they don't need this title anymore. Back then, the Shou whose strength was only between the 4th and 6th level of titled martial god. But now, Fong Ning alone was already a 6th level titled martial god. His strength was increasing extremely quickly. Soon, the martial gods who were originally Shou Hu would be promoted to Shou Hu or even beyond that. All right, Lin Feng, why do you like the title of Shou Hu so much? Little Sword asked curiously. Ziyao turned her head and smiled. Because this is Linda G's wish, the goal he strives for, and the responsibility he wants to fulfill. Guard. Looking at each other and smiling, Lin Feng nodded. The one who understood him the most was naturally Ziyao. I see. Fong Ning and Little Sword suddenly understood. At this moment, Lin Feng pointed at the existence in front of them that looked like a creeping giant beast, his eyes bright. We're here. Fong Ning and Little Sword looked over and were surprised. Training base. They couldn't be more familiar with the training base. Fong Ning and Little Sword were both elites who had walked out of the training base. Even Lin Feng himself was the same. But this time, it was a little different. This is? Ziyao's beautiful eyes shone slightly. As the leader of the Shou Hu, Ziyao couldn't be more familiar with this place. Lin Feng walked all the way in. The path he took wasn't the usual path, but a mysterious area. An area that the Shou Hu had never opened. Fong Ning and Little Sword looked around curiously. Their initial surprise had completely turned into curiosity. Under the guidance of Lin Feng, walking on this different path, it was as if they were entering a territory that they had never set foot on before. It was full of the unknown and challenges. It's right in front. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. This was the first time he had walked on this path. But unlike Fong Ning and Little Sword, he was very familiar with this path. Lin Feng had the information of the entire Netherworld ship in his mind, including the structure of the ship, the various facilities, and even the smallest paths. After passing through a few winding snake paths, it was like a maze, but Lin Feng was very relaxed. "We're here." Ziyao's beautiful eyes shone. She and her sister had been here before. A red spider web blocked the path in front of them. It was densely intertwined, and an extremely strong energy aura completely blocked the path. What a strong energy! Fong Ning frowned. Little Sword's body trembled. He was the weakest among them. It was a shock to the soul. Space barrier. Lin Feng explained and smiled. He remembered that when he was in the Black Mist Demonic Dragon Valley, he was trapped by a space barrier. It was so similar. Space barrier? Fong Ning and Little Sword were stunned. They had never heard of it. It's used to block warriors who haven't reached a certain level. Ziyao nodded gently and said, "This should be a galaxy-level spatial barrier. Only galaxy-level powerhouses can enter it." As her words fell into Fong Ning and Little Jian's ears, both of them revealed a look of respect. The galaxy level was a transcendent existence that was one level higher than the novice level. That's right. Lin Feng nodded slightly, but under everyone's shocked gazes, he slowly stretched out his right hand. Suddenly, a terrifying flame ignited and made contact with the red spider web. In an instant, the spider web trembled violently and burned a huge hole. "Oh my God!" Fong Ning and Little Sword's eyes widened. Ziyao covered her small mouth. She was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She didn't expect that this galaxy-level barrier was like a thin piece of paper in front of Lin Feng. Fong Ning's heart beat rapidly. Galaxy-level warrior? Little Sword's mouth twitched, and he was shocked. Lin Feng smiled indifferently and gently pulled open the red spider web. He said non-committally, "Let's go in." As he spoke, he had already pulled Ziyao, who was still in shock, through the thin layer of spider web effortlessly. Fong Ning and Little Sword looked at each other. They suppressed the shock in their hearts and followed closely behind. "This place is..." Ziyao looked around curiously. At this moment, it was as if they had entered a brand new and strange space. It was an extremely long and wide passage with countless small rooms around it. She had always been curious about what was inside this space barrier, but she was never sure. Now, she finally got what she wanted. The inner layer. Lin Feng nodded gently. "These rooms are..." Fong Ning asked curiously. He looked at one of the blue and white rooms with bright eyes. A small training space. Lin Feng's mouth curved slightly. "Every room here has a unique function. It can allow a warrior to enter and cultivate." As he spoke, Lin Feng pointed at the blue and white room that Fong Ning was looking at. He said softly, "For example, this room has an extremely thick origin source water. It's suitable for water-type, celestial spirit masters, or martial gods to cultivate." Fong Ning's eyes immediately brightened, and his breathing quickened slightly. Another example is this. Lin Feng pointed at a door that was hard to tell whether it was real or fake. He looked at Ziyao and said, "In this small training space, heavenly soul masters whose attribute is space can increase their cultivation speed to the limit." Linda Ziyao's beautiful eyes flickered as she said in shock, "I just happened to know something." Lin Feng winked at Ziyao, and Ziyao immediately understood what he was trying to say. "So, Lin Feng, what do you mean?" Fong Ning's eyes lit up. Lin Feng looked at Fong Ning and Little Sword. "Cultivate. Do your best to increase your strength. We can't lose the battle in 5 months. With your strength, you can definitely increase your strength to a level that you can't even imagine in 5 months. I'll need your help in 5 months. The key is, do you want to become stronger?" Lin Feng's eyes shone with confidence. With his understanding of the two of them, there was no doubt that they would definitely, yes. Of course we do. Fang Ning and Little Sword laughed confidently. Lin Feng also laughed. In this moment, it was as if they had returned to the past, to the time when they were in the training base. The three of them fought together, worked hard together, and continuously climbed to the peak. Lin Feng looked at Zi Yao and nodded with a smile. Whether it was Fang Ning or Little Sword, they were all companions that he could completely trust. For the battle in 5 months, the brand new hunt was ready to go. Begin the sprint. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 305. In the depths of the wilderness. A monster with flames all over its body was resting there. It was nearly 100 meters long and looked like a dog or a lion. Its curly hair fluttered in the flames. The most eye-catching thing was the burning flame mark on its forehead. It was a symbol of the Celestial Dog clan and a powerful existence with the Tao of Fire. Little Celestial Dog. At this moment, it was narrowing its eyes and taking a nap. Beside it were skeletons. The huge dragon bones looked ferocious, but they seemed to be just decorations. To the little celestial dog, dragons, it was just food. Rumble. A loud noise seemed to reach its ears. The little celestial dog opened its eyes with an unfriendly expression. It emitted a hint of anger and coldness. A few winged dragons flew over from the horizon. They glided and cried like cranes. The little celestial dog instantly opened its mouth and spat out a surging flame. A huge fireball covered the entire sky. In an instant, whoosh! The winged dragons were completely swallowed. Roar! The little celestial dog roared a few times, as if it was demonstrating its power. It no longer felt sleepy and looked around. It sniffed and suddenly seemed to smell something. The little celestial dog swept past like a gust of wind, as if it was piercing through the clouds. It could control its huge body with ease. Soon, the little celestial dog arrived above a boundless canyon. It was an area covered by a layer of white fog. It seemed to be an area that had been imprisoned. The little celestial dog's eyes shone with a cold light. Gee! It charged straight in. However, bang! A huge white light flashed, and the little celestial dog was blocked. He felt dizzy from the fall. That white light was like a fortress, blocking him tightly. If Lin Feng was here, he would definitely be shocked. This white light was very similar to the one he had encountered before. A spatial barrier. Roar. Anger rose. The little celestial dog was obviously a rude and unreasonable person. It bared its teeth and roared angrily. Its hair stood on end. It was really angry. Huff huff, a huge flame kept condensing in its mouth. A shocking amount of natural energy surged. Boom! The fireball crazily crashed into the spatial barrier. However, the white light merely trembled violently and was not damaged at all. The little celestial hound's eyes narrowed and became a bit blood red. It suddenly opened its mouth, and an extremely powerful suction force appeared. It was like a huge black hole. Tengu swallows the sun. Crackle, crackle. The spatial barrier was trembling non-stop. This crazy suction force was filled with extremely destructive power, and it crushed the defense of the spatial barrier. However, this was a celestial river-class spatial barrier after all, and its defensive power was indeed amazing. Despite the violent shaking, it still stood firm. And at this time, the ruthlessness and anger in the little celestial dog's bones completely erupted. Roar! Roar! As it roared, the little celestial hound's body violently expanded. 300 meters, 500 meters, 800 meters. As his body grew, the suction force increased by several times. How could the spatial barrier withstand such a terrifying force? It shook violently like a house in a violent gale. Over and over again, he was ravaged until collapse. The little celestial hound's eyes glowed, and its body gradually returned to its original state. Although it looked somewhat tired, the little celestial hound couldn't help but smile when it saw the big hole in the white light barrier in front of it. Although the hole was condensing and recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, the huge hole couldn't be repaired in a short period of time. Roar! The little celestial hound raised its head proudly, and the flame mark on its forehead was ferocious. In an instant, its body turned into a ray of light and entered the place where the fog was growing. It disappeared without a trace. The Netherworld ship. Heavenly martial artists use the human soul as their main force. According to the different paths of cultivation, they are divided into martial god and war god. Lin Feng sat cross-legged on the ground and looked at Toto, who was floating in the air. He listened attentively, and the scene seemed a bit comical. But in reality, in terms of experience and strength, Toto was more than qualified to be Lin Feng's teacher. And Lin Feng was also very clear about this point. He had never underestimated this child, who was less than a meter tall in front of him. In private, Lin Feng would even tease him and call him an old monster. But now, with Toto teaching him on behalf of his teacher, Lin Feng didn't dare to slack off. One is marked by the company one keeps. As an artifact spirit who had been following a starry sky expert for a long time, even if his strength wasn't as good, his knowledge and experience weren't far off. Martial gods cultivate the heart of origin and temper the body. It's a process from the inside to the outside. War gods cultivate the chi of heaven and earth and turn it into chi to clear the meridians and strengthen the body, increasing strength from the outside to the inside. Lin Feng listened and nodded. Just like heavenly spirit masters and heavenly soul masters, martial gods and war gods only focused on different aspects of cultivation. In the black fog, demonic Dragon Valley, before he had condensed the heart of origin, he had cultivated the golden dragon chi technique and relied on the powerful golden chi. Although the two are connected, they are different. It's very difficult to cultivate both. As one's strength grows stronger, the dividing line will become farther and farther. It's like two forks in a road. Slowly, the distance will become larger until you reach the end. Lin Feng nodded. He knew that the end point Duo was talking about was the way of the heavens. In fact, whether it was martial gods, war gods, or even heavenly spirit masters and heavenly soul masters, there was only one endpoint, a starry sky expert. However, since they both control the heart of soul and temper the body, why is it so difficult to cultivate both? Lin Feng asked curiously. As long as the heart of soul didn't reject it, one could strengthen the heart of origin while absorbing the chi of heaven and earth and turning it into chi to strengthen the body. Logically speaking, the two didn't conflict. One was from the inside to the outside, and the other was from the outside to the inside. They could complement each other. Duo suddenly smiled. It's because of the relationship between soul and will, Duo said. Lin Feng's eyes instantly brightened. For example, heavenly gods cultivate the soul. The spirit and the soul are different. Similarly, heavenly martial artists cultivate the body. The difference between the body and the soul is just a hair's breadth apart. They are two completely different paths of cultivation. The martial god cultivates the body, whereas the war god cultivates the soul. Lin Feng didn't quite understand, but he listened patiently. Do you remember the divine beast natal chart? Duo's eyes shone brightly. Lin Feng grunted softly. How could he not remember? At this moment, his heart of origin had completely turned into a mini phoenix natal chart. The divine beast natal chart only needs to light up 5 earthly astrolabes and 2 heavenly astrolabes to step onto the heavenly Tao and become immortal. Duo's voice was soft, but it caused Lin Feng's eyes to light up and his heart to beat faster. He seemed to understand something. It's the same for heavenly martial artists. The martial god can activate 7 martial god wheels and become a starry sky expert. As for the divine battle god, once he breaks through the 7 divine battle spirits, his body will be indestructible, and he will embark on the path of the strongest. Lin Feng nodded. As expected, just like the divine beast natal chart, heavenly martial artists had a clear system for their cultivation. Take the martial god, for example. Once he activates all 5 earthly astrolabes, he'll become a saint. Don't you think it's very similar to the divine beast natal chart? Duo smiled. Lin Feng froze for a moment, then nodded. There were indeed many similarities. However, Duo's tone didn't seem to be the case. It seems similar, but it's not the same, Duo said. The divine beast natal chart will light up as the divine beast grows. Every time it lights up, the divine beast strength will increase by a level. Duo smiled faintly. However, it's different for war gods. Every time they activate a martial god wheel, they'll have the right to break through to the next level. Lin Feng finally understood. In other words, divine beasts didn't need to cultivate. Activating the martial god wheel was only one of the key steps for war gods. There are gains and losses. Although it's easy for divine beasts to light up the earthly astrolabe, it's extremely difficult to light up the astrolabe of destiny. Duo's eyes lit up as he said seriously, "The strength of humans comes from their own hard work and cultivation. Therefore, the chances of activating 2 astrolabes of destiny is higher than that of divine beasts." In other words, the chances of becoming a starry sky expert were higher. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. "You're digressing." Duo laughed and grinned. Actually, war gods and war gods are different paths leading to the same goal. However, the wheel and the soul are like water and fire. They don't mix. Once you activate the martial god wheel, you won't be able to break through to the war god's soul. Lin Feng nodded in realization. No wonder Duo said that they were like 2 forked paths. As one strength increased, the distance between the 2 paths would increase. The fundamental reason was the difference between the wheel and the soul. Wait, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Duo had only said that it was very difficult to cultivate both. However, based on the difference between the wheel and the soul, it was obvious that they couldn't be cultivated together. They were 2 completely different paths. Duo, what do you mean by cultivate together? Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Yes, it's very difficult to cultivate both. Duo spoke, and then he suddenly revealed a faint smile. But everything can't be generalized. There are always some special cases in the boundless starry sky. For example, Duo paused for a moment, and then he gazed at Lin Feng with a teasing gaze. Me? Lin Feng was stunned. Yes, Lin Feng, you are one of those special cases, Duo said softly. Your martial god will has completely disappeared. No, it should be said that it has merged with the phoenix blood and turned into a divine beast natal plate. Duo blinked. Therefore, Lin Feng can break through to the war god soul and increase his strength without affecting his cultivation as a war god. 2 birds with 1 stone. And this is the second piece of good news I want to tell you. As long as you break through the first war god soul, Lin Feng, your strength as a sky martial artist will increase greatly. The battle in 5 months is in the bag. Duo's voice came straight into Lin Feng's ears. Lin Feng's heart raced, and his eyes sparkled with excitement. Indeed, even though his heart of origin had mutated, his strength could still increase. This was very good news. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 306. Heavenly Treasure World. The white fog was so thick that one couldn't even see one's fingers. Ever since the 3rd stage of the beast rampage began, human warriors had never entered this space again. In fact, with Lin Feng's financial support and enough heavenly treasure crystals, the heavenly treasure world had temporarily lost its use. But on this day, the heavenly treasure world welcomed a new guest. Roar! There was a crazy roar. It was a monster with flames all over its body. The flame mark on the little heavenly dog's forehead shone brightly. Its flame-like fur seemed to be burning. Even the white fog was unable to get close to it. Coming to this unfamiliar place, the little heavenly dog didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Its lion-like head turned around and sniffed as if it had found something. Suddenly, it rushed straight into the depths of the heavenly treasure world. Black Fog Demonic Dragon Valley. After Lin Feng left, it regained its peace. In fact, the Black Fog Demonic Dragon clan was originally a reclusive clan. With the existence of the space barrier, they had long been isolated from the outside world. But unforeseen circumstances. The Black Fog Demonic Dragon clan was destined to not be peaceful. Boom! Rumble. In the outermost space fortress, a few Black Fog Demonic Dragons were looking at the huge light wall in horror. It was shaking crazily, as if it would collapse at any time. The violent shaking caused their faces to turn pale. The Black Fog Demonic Dragons roared at the sky, as if calling for their companions. That fear was far more terrifying than Lin Feng's. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the huge light wall. It was like a piece of turtle scale that split open from the center. Suddenly, it scattered in all directions like a broken mirror, and a huge light hole appeared. The few Black Fog Demonic Dragons looked at the light hole in horror. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past, bringing with it a scorching hot air current. In front of them, a tiny thing appeared. Little heavenly dog. Its body was not even 100 meters long. In front of this 6,000 to 7,000 meter long Black Fog Demonic Dragon, it was indeed insignificant. But strength wasn't measured by body length. Roar. The little celestial dog looked at the food in front of it excitedly. The expression in his eyes kept changing. He sniffed the air with the tip of his nose, as if he had found an endless amount of food. He was extremely happy. Instantly, he opened his mouth wide, and the suction force that was strong enough to shatter a galaxy-level spatial fortress surged out again. It was like a huge black hole, crazily pulling at everything. Along with the black fog, the hoarse roars of the Black Fog Demonic Dragons were drowned out. In an instant, devour everything. Hiss, hiss, gnashing its teeth, the little celestial dog's body slowly shrank. There was a look of satisfaction on its face. Gently stroking its round belly, the little celestial dog looked around from time to time with bright eyes. In an instant, he stepped into the air and disappeared in the air like a gust of wind. In the world of magical beasts, the strong preyed on the weak. This was the rule of survival. After a month of peace, the Black Fog Demonic Dragon Valley sank into a thick crisis once more. What was different from the last time was that the crisis this time was very likely. It was truly a calamity. The gears of history were slowly shifting. As if it was destined, a huge crisis began to spread. The butterfly effect. The netherworld ship. The lower level of the sphere in the main cabin was empty. This was originally Bailey Feng's cultivation room. Now it was used by Lin Feng. Lin Feng, because you have activated the heroic wheel, I suggest that you try to break through the war god spirit first. It's called the heroic spirit. Hovering in the air, Toto explained carefully, the spirit is about the connection and convergence of the meridians. Although it doesn't have the explosive force of the aperture eruption like the martial god's wheel. But the pros and cons are different. Each has its own advantages. The spirit itself can passively strengthen the body. The connection of the meridians allows the energy to flow better, strengthen, and increase the speed of cultivation. Most importantly, the spirit can fuse with the spirit weapon. Spirit weapon? Lin Feng looked at Toto curiously. Actually, weapons are a type of spirit weapon, Toto said with a faint smile. But they're not like the ones you saw in Alcade Hall. Toto shook his head. A true spirit weapon must have an artifact spirit. Toto pointed at himself. For example, I'm an artifact spirit, but after countless years, I gained intelligence. Master extracted me and gave me life. Lin Feng was stunned. He only knew that Toto was an artifact spirit, but he didn't know that there were so many twists and turns. The netherworld ship is also a spirit weapon? Lin Feng's eyes widened in disbelief. Toto smiled and didn't answer. Although Lin Feng found it strange, he didn't ask. There seemed to be something involved. Since Toto didn't mention it, it wasn't appropriate for him to ask. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he clenched his fists. Then what should I do now, Toto? The first step is to connect all the meridians of the heroic spirit. This is the most difficult and tedious step, and it is also a step without any shortcuts. Toto's eyes shone brightly. His right hand flickered with light as he pointed. In an instant, an intense light gathered in front of Lin Feng. It was a complicated map of the main meridians, branch meridians, and extraordinary meridians. Everything was gathered there. This is the meridian diagram of the heroic spirit. Toto said, remember it well. Don't make a mistake. Toto's eyes flashed. It's not easy to activate the war god's spirit. It takes a long time. Every time you waste a chance, you'll lose a few days of time. You can't afford to waste that much time. I understand. Lin Feng nodded. He only had 5 months left. He had to make full use of it. The war god spirit can passively improve one's body. Duo smiled faintly. By activating the heroic spirit, Lin Feng, you will become a galaxy-level war god. When that happens, your body will be strengthened once again. Compared to other sky martialists of the same level, you will have an advantage. Lin Feng smiled. It was difficult for him to cultivate, but, however, the benefits he gained were also obvious. It wasn't just the combination of the divine beast natal chart and the war god spirit. Other martial gods, or war gods, could only experience one transformation. However, he could enjoy 2 transformations. At the same level, how could he not be strong? Let's begin. Toto smiled. Yes. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Sky martial continent. At this moment, it was peaceful. Under Lin Feng's protection, the beast army couldn't even take half a step into the sky martial continent. The remaining people in the 4 great royal cities were all filled with hope and anticipation. They looked at Lin Feng's divine might in the sky with reverence. He slaughtered the demonic beasts as if there was no one around him. They all hoped that the beast army would end soon. And good news came one after another. After you, Lan also broke through and became a novice martial god. Then, after 2 hours, Pai Li, the new leader of the Sky Martial Army, also broke through the bottleneck. The most exciting thing for the people of the Sky Martial Continent was that other than their great hero Lin Feng, there were finally other martial artists who could resist the Beast Army. Huang Meng and the Laughing Buddha. Pung, pung. The black and white crystal balls displayed their might to the fullest. Together with Lin Feng's Aurora All, they looked majestic. Huang Meng and the Laughing Buddha's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. They had waited for so long and held their breaths, all for the sake of personally entering the battlefield and fighting with these damned demonic beasts. The black metal balls were like giant bombs. Everywhere they exploded, corpses were strewn everywhere. The white metal balls protected the area around them. No demonic beasts were able to step into the area covered by their light. The demonic beasts above the Emperor level had already been killed by Lin Feng. However, the main force of the Beast Army was the endless beast generals and behemoth lords. There were hundreds of millions of them, and it was impossible to kill all of them. However, with Huang Meng and the Laughing Buddha's help, the killing speed increased significantly. Lin Feng smiled. Seeing the 2 of them attacking with all their might, he was satisfied. He had made the right decision. As the human martial artists grew stronger, the burden on his shoulders would slowly shift. Thus, he would focus all his attention on preparing for the battle in 5 months. The battle that would determine the survival of the human race. The Netherworld ship. It took Lin Feng an entire day to completely memorize the meridian map of Heroic Soul. There are tens of thousands of meridians, large and small. Toto had marked out the order and direction of each meridian, and there was no room for error. It was like a complicated maze, constantly twisting and dispersing. But one wrong step, and all his previous efforts would be wasted. Very good. Toto crossed his arms in front of his chest, his eyes shining. Faster than I expected. Toto nodded and smiled. Lin Feng, your memory and comprehension are indeed good. If Toto said good, it was not as simple as good. However, Lin Feng did not care. The most important thing was the result. What should I do next? Lin Feng's expression was calm. Complete the first step. Toto did not say anything else. A book with a pale golden cover appeared in his hand, and he tossed it to Lin Feng. Smack! Lin Feng caught it with his right hand. It was slightly heavy. He did not know what special material the book was made of. Focusing his gaze, Lin Feng took a deep breath and slowly flipped open the book. He carefully read every word and sentence, trying to comprehend them calmly. It was a nameless book. However, it was incomparably precious. Lin Feng murmured softly, "Connect the meridians." Closing his eyes and closing the book, Lin Feng calmed his mind. Just as Toto said, the first step was the most complicated. He had to connect the tens of thousands of meridians. He could not afford to fail. Smack! Lin Feng opened his eyes, and they were filled with determination. Golden dragon energy. As the energy of heaven and earth surged into him, the golden wheel below shone resplendently, and an astonishing aura spread out. Soon, Lin Feng was completely immersed in it. His body seemed to have become a battlefield. The battle had begun, to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 307. Black Mist, Demonic Dragon Valley. A foul wind and a rain of blood followed, as everyone was slaughtered. With the arrival of an unparalleled monster, the Black Mist Demonic Dragon clan suffered a calamity. Sizzle, sizzle, the little celestial hound kept gnawing on a dead Black Mist Demonic Dragon. The huge skeleton of 6,000 meters long was very eye-catching. Compared to swallowing it, the little celestial hound preferred this method of eating. Flesh, blood, this was the most primitive and instinctive way of hunting. Not long after, that Black Mist Demonic Dragon was gnawed clean. The ground had long been dyed blood red, telling the cruelty of nature. The strong preyed on the weak. There was nothing to complain about. This was the rule of survival. Eat, sleep, wake up, hunt again, eat, sleep again. This was the lifestyle that the little celestial hound liked the most, and also its most primitive instinctive reaction. It was in its infancy period when it was growing. In just 3 days after entering the Black Mist Demonic Dragon Valley, its body grew a few meters, slowly approaching 90 meters. Similarly, it was getting closer and closer to its infancy period. The infancy celestial hound was at the beginner level. This was its body, not its strength. In terms of talent, the current little celestial hound could already tear apart the defense of the galaxy-level space barrier. It was extremely extraordinary, and the infancy period was the celestial hound that Lin Feng met in the illusion. It already had the strength of the galaxy level. One day, another day, this kind of leisurely life, when the little celestial hound hunted and killed thousands of Black Mist Demonic Dragons, it finally met its strongest enemy. The clan leader of the Black Mist Demonic Dragon clan, Lienya. The clan dragons died one after another. As the clan leader, Lienya could no longer sit still. Although he was afraid of the little celestial hound's strength, Lienya had no choice, either wait for death or die in a fierce battle. There were no cowards in the Black Mist Demonic Dragon clan. Almost all the 5th and 6th rank Black Mist Demonic Dragons gathered. Lienya led the Black Mist Demonic Dragon clan to face this terrifying fiend and launched a desperate battle. Either you die, or I die. This battle, blood flowed like a river. It was a battle that could destroy heaven and earth, a nightmare. It was the nightmare of the Black Mist Demonic Dragon clan. Refined Teeth was dead. Lian Meng was also dead. All the rank 5 and rank 6 Black Mist Demonic Dragons that participated in the battle were devoured. Under the power of the Celestial Dog clan's innate skill, Heavenly Dog swallows the sun. No matter how many Black Mist Dragons there were, they were all useless. The little Celestial Hound's stomach was like an endless black hole that could never be filled. But, however, he had absorbed enough energy. The little celestial hound was full. Its 100-meter-long body had a perfect, streamlined shape. The little celestial hound's eyes were closed, its body curled into a ball. It was like a hazy flame filled with a powerful aura. A faint light enveloped it, and the raging flames formed a circle of light. It was so familiar. Heavenly fire. At this moment, the little celestial hound had absorbed enough energy and was undergoing an important transformation. The transformation from infancy to childhood was an evolution of the level of life, a leap in strength. If Lin Feng knew, he would definitely be shocked, because the little celestial hound's evolution was earlier than what Duo had expected. 1 month. The gears of history were unknowingly, slowly changing. The netherworld ship, sitting cross-legged, Lin Feng was like an old monk in meditation. The golden wheel below emitted a clear luster, and an astonishing aura of heaven and earth surged, constantly gathering around Lin Feng's body. Exhale, it was very long. Lin Feng's expression was very calm, but his tightly shut eyes and slightly furrowed brows reflected that at this moment, he was not as calm as he appeared on the surface. It was like a chess game, seemingly ordinary, but inside, it was already raging. Whoosh! Golden air currents constantly flowed between the various meridians. The big and small meridians of the heroic spirit meridian had already been completely connected. For Lin Feng, who had an excellent memory since childhood, it was not difficult to remember the entire meridian map of the heroic spirit meridian. Back then, before Lin Feng had become a reserve warrior, he could clearly remember that astonishing spear strike. A lot of talents were actually hidden. The second step is to expand the meridians. Only meridians strong enough can accommodate the existence of the heroic spirit. Back then, I had stimulated the heroic spirit meridian, so the meridians of my right foot were strengthened. Therefore, this step is not difficult. According to Duoduo's instructions, Lin Feng repeatedly sorted out the meridians of the heroic spirit meridian. Every time the golden air currents surged, it would strengthen the meridians, integrate with the energy of heaven and earth, and slowly increase the meridians by a small margin without stopping. No wonder Duo said that the body of the war god is stronger than that of the martial god. So it's because of the existence of the soul. As he cultivated, there seemed to be a powerful force supporting the meridians of his right foot. As it continued to expand, Lin Feng deeply felt that the strength of his right foot continued to increase. In fact, he was already a galaxy-level martial god, but the width and toughness of his meridians did not meet the requirements of a galaxy-level war god. Comparing the two, one could see the difference. Lin Feng pondered. That's true. The strength of a martial god comes from cultivating the heart of origin. That's the foundation of a martial god's power. There was an essential difference between a martial god and a war god. As long as I complete these 2 steps, all the foundations will be solid, Lin Feng thought to himself. It was like laying the foundation for a house. Everything was prepared. The rest would be left to Duo. There was no shortcut for the first step. He could only rely on his own strength to complete this path. As for the second step, with the help of the golden wheel, Lin Feng's speed of completion increased by several times. As for the final third step, according to the normal opportunity, he still had to wait. But with Duo's presence, everything became a lot simpler. In fact, if Duo wasn't confident, why would he be so confident? It's about time. Duo's eyes shone. No one knew Lin Feng's physical condition better than Duo. Lin Feng controlled the netherworld ship, which was equivalent to controlling Duo. But in many aspects, it was actually two-sided. Suddenly, the intricate control equipment in the main cabin lit up. Small buttons seemed to be controlled by someone as they were pressed continuously. Numbers flashed on the screen. Duo's eyes shone as he focused. Although Lin Feng was the owner of the netherworld ship, but in terms of controlling the netherworld ship, Lin Feng was no match for Duo. Artifact Spirit. Dang, the equipment made a crisp sound. In an instant, around Lin Feng, white light gathered. It was like a transparent color. It passed through Lin Feng's right foot, folded and condensed, forming an inverted cone shape. Lin Feng closed his eyes tightly. His expression was very calm. Waves of powerful qi flowed into his body, but he didn't panic. He was already familiar with the entire third step. Let's begin, Lin Feng thought to himself. Forcefully break through. As the energy gathered, it was illuminated by the intense aurora. The hidden power in his right foot began to stir. It was as if a dormant power had been awakened. The corner of Duoduo's mouth curled up slightly. When he saw a small dot of light appear on Lin Feng's right foot, his eyes lit up. It appeared. Lin Feng's heart thumped. His body seemed to become transparent. He could clearly see the meridians in his right foot. Along with the illumination of the aurora, the latent power in his meridians slowly gathered like nothingness. That bright dot of light was like a scorching sun. It had a strong suction force. As the energy gathered, the dazzling light became more and more intense, until it reached limit. Activate. Heroic soul. Lin Feng clenched his fists and shouted. His eyes widened rapidly, bringing with them a bright light. His right foot seemed to be filled with lead. It was incomparably heavy. The powerful energy gathered in his left foot was countless times stronger. The bright dot of light emitted an intense luster. In an instant, a violent explosion resounded in his mind. The light that reached the limit, it exploded. The terrifying explosive force produced an intense energy riot. However, his meridians weren't damaged at all. This energy seemed to have completely melted into his body. It kept dispersing. The meridians in his right foot flickered with a faint white light. At this moment, most of the energy spread throughout his body. It kept spreading to every corner, strengthening every cell in his body. A familiar feeling attacked him once again. So comfortable. Lin Feng felt his meridians opening up. He could feel his body's quality improving. At this moment, he felt as if he had returned to the time when the martial god broke through to the Star River realm. His body improved along with the martial god. Another transformation took place. Time passed slowly. He enjoyed this tranquility and the changes in his body. Lin Feng felt like he was bathing in the spring breeze. As his strength continued to improve, there was an indescribable carefree feeling in his heart. Martial God, level 1-star River Realm. Martial God, level 1-star River Realm. However, whether it was the heart of origin or the strength of his body, they were far beyond the level 1-star River Realm. 1 plus 1 might not necessarily equal 2. Cultivating both the Martial God and Martial God, Lin Feng became a rare dual heaven-level warrior. What level would his strength reach? No one knew. The transformation of his body lasted for nearly 2 hours before it ended. The refreshed Lin Feng felt refreshed. Just as he was about to get up, he felt something strange in his right foot. At his knee, beside the original heroic soul, there was a black hole that was neither big nor small. It was a striking existence. It was filled with powerful energy, like a dark star in the sky. It made one feel suffocated. It was very powerful. Heroic soul. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. However, that empty black hole seemed to be missing something at this moment. With a thought, Lin Feng opened his eyes in an uproar. He saw Duo 2 meters away in the air, looking at him with a faint smile. In his hand, there was a purple-black object that was emitting a bright luster. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to Komichidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 308. How do you feel? Duo asked with a smile. My body has become stronger again. Lin Feng clenched his fists. He could feel that his body had improved by another level and was filled with power. Purely based on your body, you are now equivalent to a level 2 galaxy level war god or a level 3 galaxy level martial god. Duo's lips curled upwards. MN. Lin Feng nodded. As he had expected, The war god's body was indeed stronger than the martial god's. Duo's eyes shone. Don't underestimate the difference between level 1 and 2. Dual cultivation, heaven martial artist, will raise your upper limit. Seeing Lin Feng's confused expression, Duo smiled and explained, if we compare a person's body to a container, then dual cultivation is filling the container with water. Lin Feng, what you are increasing now is not water, but the size of the container. And this size can only be increased when one's life level increases. Lin Feng instantly understood, his eyes shining brightly. The life level increase Duo mentioned was actually from the novice star level to the galaxy level, and then from the galaxy level to the galaxy level. In other words, with each level, wouldn't his body's upper limit be 1 or 2 levels stronger than others? Do you understand? Duo smiled. Yes. Lin Feng nodded, feeling slightly happy. Indeed, this was an unexpected surprise. Among those of the same level, he had the advantage. Not only that, Duo's lips curled upwards. More importantly, it can be accumulated. Accumulated? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He exclaimed, Duo, you mean every time I advance to a new life level, my body's upper limit will increase again and again? It will continuously increase the distance between me and other heaven-level experts? Of course, dual cultivation has a high price, but the benefits are also incomparable, Duo said. Duo paused for a moment before continuing. And this accumulation isn't just a simple addition. If you compare the increase in your life level to the expansion of your container, it will be calculated in multiples. More importantly, this multiples is fixed. Therefore, when the capacity of the container increases, the improvement will be even more terrifying. And this is also the reason why the gap between heavenly gods and heavenly martial artists grows bigger as their strength increases. The soul of a celestial god is getting stronger and stronger, while the body of a celestial cultivator is getting stronger and stronger, forming a huge polarization. Lin Feng nodded. No wonder there wasn't much of a difference between heavenly warriors and heavenly gods. But when his strength slowly increased, the path between the two would become further and further apart, forming two extremes. Lin Feng stared at the purplish-black artifact. It was a purplish-black treasure cover. The clear and crystalline color was like a mirror. Upon closer inspection, it looked like a hornet's nest, densely packed with small holes. He couldn't tell what material it was made of, but he could feel an extremely powerful force coming from it. Surging power. This is soul artifact? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Yes. Duo nodded and said, I've carefully selected this for you from Master's Treasure Mountain, Wind Vortex. Wind Vortex? Treasure Mountain? Lin Feng looked at Duo curiously. He couldn't help but recall the structure of the Netherworld ship. He had seen the Treasure Mountain in his mind before. It was an isolated space. Apart from that, there was also a huge crafting room. He had heard from his father that crafting was very difficult. In the Douling world, craftsmen had a very high status. Could it be, does Master know how to craft? Lin Feng asked the question in his heart. Yes, Duo said without hesitation. Duo looked at Lin Feng and smiled. To be honest, Master doesn't have any talent in crafting. However, Master has a special interest in crafting. It's not easy to find your own interests in the endless years. Master has studied a lot of crafting techniques to make up for his lack of talent. Although Master's crafting skills aren't worth mentioning in the endless universe, but as if he knew what Lin Feng was thinking, Duo said, in the Douling world, no one can compare to him. Lin Feng nodded. He didn't doubt Duo's words. What couldn't a starry sky expert do? The most important thing for craftsmen is to have a fire elemental heart. Then, they have to master a flame that can be used to craft weapons. Duo looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Lin Feng, you do meet the first condition, but the second condition. Duo said, unfortunately, your devouring fire can't be used to craft weapons. Any material that can be smelted will be devoured by you. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The devouring fire's characteristics were really special. It had completely blocked his path. unless you reach master's level. Duo shrugged. Lin Feng smiled helplessly. Is there no other way before I become a starry sky expert? It's useless even if you comprehend other flame abilities. Duo smiled faintly. With the devouring fire, any other flame energy will have to give way. Give up, Lin Feng. Duo smiled. Then, as if he thought of something, he said softly, "Oh, I forgot. Phoenixes have another type of flame. The flame of rebirth?" Lin Feng remembered it clearly. The devouring fire and the flame of rebirth were two extremes. However, the divine beast, Phoenix, could perfectly control these two extreme flames. Yes, it's an excellent flame for crafting weapons. Duo nodded and said, "However, it's a pity that a human body wants to master the flames of two opposite poles. That's something that's close to impossible." Lin Feng shrugged. Although he was curious about crafting weapons, he didn't know what to do. But since he didn't have the talent, he could only accept it. Sometimes it had to be. All right, back to the topic. Let's start fusing. Duo tossed the wind vortex over. Although this wind vortex wasn't personally crafted by Master, the fact that it was kept in the hidden artifact mountain is enough to prove its value. I've thought about it carefully. It's the best soul artifact you can handle right now. Lin Feng caught it with one hand, his eyes filled with curiosity. The purple-black color emitted a demonic light. The tiny holes were densely packed. There were tens of thousands of tiny holes in the shape of a small lid. The craftsmanship was so precise that it was breathtaking. How do I fuse it? Lin Feng's eyes shone. Place it on your right knee. Drip some blood on it. Duo crossed his arms and said, "So simple?" It was a bit unexpected. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, then placed the wind vortex on it. The wind vortex was in the shape of a half circle, covering his kneecap. As a drop of blood dripped down, Lin Feng instantly felt a flow of extremely strong energy, as if it had been awakened. Wah! The purple-black light flashed. The wind vortex expanded strangely, as if it had an extremely strong flexibility. In an instant, it twisted like a vine. Lin Feng was slightly surprised, but he didn't panic. The wind vortex didn't have any intention to attack, nor was it dangerous. It seemed to be looking for a place to belong. In a short time, his entire right leg was covered by the purple-black light, shining brightly. Pa! The light was resplendent. Lin Feng felt his right leg tighten, frowning slightly. In an instant, the purple-black light strangely seeped into his skin, as if it didn't exist. The rapid change made Lin Feng's eyes shine. Very quickly, his cells violently changed, and his expanded meridians were all covered by the purple-black light. It was as if his originally naked body was wearing clothes and armor. His right leg, within his skin and bones, had an internal layer of defense built by the wind vortex. Is this the effect of a soul artifact? Lin Feng was shocked. Compared to his body's defense, it was several times stronger, and this was just the beginning. The purple-black light turned into sparkling starlight. After strengthening his meridians and cells, it crazily surged towards the heroic soul at his knee. The huge black hole seemed to have an endless suction force. His right leg was like 100 rivers flowing into the sea, boiling. Release, absorb, gather, change. The purple-black light had a strong vitality, and it started to struggle against the suction force of the black hole. Faintly, Lin Feng seemed to be able to feel a kind of life beating. It was a very natural feeling, but it wasn't like Toto's. Instead, it was a slight feeling in his soul. Is this the weapon's spirit? Lin Feng was curious. At this moment, the battle at his right knee was still going on. They were using all their strength, neither giving way. Lin Feng was unperturbed. He was not worried at all. Since Duo had chosen this wind vortex for him, it must have been carefully calculated. He would only take it out if he could absorb and fuse with it. According to Toto, completely fusing with the soul artifact will give me the ability of a weapon spirit. I wonder, what kind of ability will it be? Lin Feng thought curiously, looking forward to it. After all, If he lost the martial god's wheel, he would lose the secret technique, acupoint explosion, which was equivalent to losing a protective talisman. If the weapon spirit's ability could be replenished, it would undoubtedly be perfect. Black Mist Dragon Valley. At this moment, the little celestial hound was undergoing an extreme transformation. A huge flame was burning. It was a huge fireball that tightly wrapped around the little celestial hound's curled-up body. Heavenly Fire. The Celestial Hound clan's innate talent was the Tao of Fire. However, there were very few who had the protection of the Heavenly Fire. It was rare to see one in 10,000 years. The flame continued to burn. The little celestial hound, curled up in the Heavenly Fire, didn't move at all. However, if one looked carefully, one would see that its body was constantly changing. The flame mark on its forehead was slowly deepening. It was transitioning from infancy to childhood. It was an extreme transformation. Although it was born without parents, the little celestial hound still used its actions to prove its talent. It was astonishingly strange. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 309. The purplish-black light filled up the entire black hole. The perfect fusion of the weapon spirit and the heroic spirit formed a brand new change. It was a feeling of fullness. Wah! Many messages appeared in his mind. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly, as if a memory fragment in the depths of his mind had been awakened. Lin Feng knew that this was a new ability he had obtained after the fusion of the weapon spirit. So this is the wind vortex. Lin Feng suddenly understood. He opened his eyes, which shone brightly. Lin Feng looked at Toto, whose round little face was smiling at him, and nodded. The fusion went smoothly. Bang! Lin Feng pulled out the dragon-slaying spear from his back, which glowed red. In an instant, his right leg took a step forward like lightning. The sudden increase in explosive power caused the speed of his attack to increase rapidly. His body moved like a ghost, adapting to his new body. Lin Feng's spear shadows filled the sky. Chi! Chi! Lin Feng's figure became illusory. He had broken through from the novice star level to the galaxy level. The successive breakthroughs of the martial god and war god levels had greatly increased his physical fitness, especially the change in his right leg. The explosive power is amazing. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. Compared to his left leg, his right leg was more powerful. His body's movement was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, creating a feeling of extreme disparity. It was impossible to guard against. At this moment, Lin Feng's spear shadows condensed into light spots as his right leg suddenly stepped forward. Flash of flowing light. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as his spear turned into a shooting star. He stabbed forward. In an instant, his right knee glowed with a purplish-black light. Enormous energy fluctuations surged from the thousands of small holes. At the last moment when his right foot touched the ground, it bent in a bizarre manner, suddenly changing at an almost impossible angle. Pata! The unimaginable change in his body completely violated the human body's inertia. However, the spear's shadows did not stop. Chi! It stabbed toward Toto. The original deviation was forcibly reversed by 45 degrees. What a shocking change in attack. Fast, accurate, and ruthless. Swish! The spear shadow passed through Toto's body, and Toto disappeared. Behind Lin Feng, light and shadow began to coalesce. Plenty then said, "How is it? The wind vortex is not bad, right?" Putting away his spear, Lin Feng smiled. Indeed, it can bring about a bizarre change in attack, making the spear move even more strange and the footwork even more mysterious. Wind vortex is mostly used to change one's movements, Duo said seriously. Changing one's spear moves will cause one's attack to be disconnected. A true expert must have an indomitable aura and confidence in his own attacks. If he can't even hit his opponent head-on, playing some tricks will be of little use. I've learned something. Lin Feng nodded, as if he had understood something. Wind vortex was just a support. When using a spear, one had to believe in their own spear. Ordinary sky warriors mainly use wind vortex to enhance the explosive force of their feet when they attack. Duo nodded. Although it's not as powerful as the explosive force of their aperture points, it's not much different. Lin Feng grunted softly, but he was very clear. He only needed to give the wind vortex a push to increase its explosive force. Most importantly, compared to the explosive force of his aperture points, the wind vortex could last longer. It could last through the entire battle. You win some, you lose some. Losing the battle gods isn't necessarily a bad thing. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Apart from the help provided by the wind vortex in terms of attack and movement techniques, the true ability of the wind vortex's weapon spirit was truly terrifying. Wind escape. Heroic soul erupted, and his speed instantly increased by 100 times. He turned into a hurricane and escaped. With a wind vortex, your safety will be greatly increased, Duo said. As long as you don't get sealed in space or frozen in time, the wind vortex can help you avoid many certain death situations in the Douling world and find a way to survive. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. Duo was indeed very thoughtful. There was no ability that could surpass a life-saving ultimate skill. After all, he only had one life. If he had the wind vortex back in the Black Mist demonic Dragon Valley, he wouldn't have ended up in such a sorry state. However, the price of using the wind escape after erupting the heroic soul is not small, Lin Feng said softly. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. I'm here, what are you worried about? Duo smiled. As long as you're still breathing, I can save you. After a pause, Duo shrugged. All right, I've digressed. I hope I'm not such a jinx. All in all, the evolution of the God of War and the fusion of the God of War's spirit are quite perfect. Lin Feng's eyes instantly flashed. Then do I have a 90% chance of winning now? Duo rested his chin on his hand and said non-committally, there are still 4 more months. It depends on your performance. Then what are we waiting for, Duo? Lin Feng clenched his fists. His eyes shone brightly. The increase in his strength made him even more confident. Let's begin. An all-round improvement. Lin Feng's schedule was extremely tight. He was multitasking. With his secret clone protecting the Sky Martial continent, Lin Feng's main body focused on the battle in 4 months. He couldn't afford to lose. It's time. The devouring flame in his hand extinguished. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. The netherworld seal in his right hand flashed slightly. Lin Feng instantly arrived at the intermediate cultivation space. The time ratio here was 100:1. Although it wasn't as good as the advanced cultivation space, this place had the Migres Palace. It could increase the realm of one's movement technique. Last time, I continuously cultivated in the first level of the Migres Palace for 10 days and 10 nights. That's 2 hours in the real world. Lin Feng stepped into the Migres Palace. His memories appeared clearly. That day, he was in a difficult situation. He had spent a total of 120,000 starlight points, but his improvement was still extremely slow. He seemed to lack a little talent in terms of improving his movement technique. Was it talent? Lin Feng shook his head. He wasn't sure, but I can't avoid it. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. As a sky martial artist, close combat was his main method of attack. If his movement technique was weak, how could he display his strength? He had to make up for it. Every day, 6 hours of movement technique training. That's 300 hours in the Migres Palace. Lin Feng nodded. It was a huge test of willpower. The Migres Palace was different from others. When cultivating in the Migres Palace, there wasn't any free time. Every minute and every second, he had to constantly dodge the attacks. The requirements for the mind were extremely high. Without a certain amount of willpower, how could he last for 300 hours? However, I have to hold on. I might not be used to it first, but I will slowly get used to it. Lin Feng clenched his fist. The goal in his heart was very clear. Just like what Duo said, A true expert couldn't have any weaknesses. Hua! 7 light doors appeared in front of him. Lin Feng stepped into the Migres palace. Without hesitation, he walked into the first light door. The first stage. I wonder if my current body can break through the first stage? Lin Feng thought to himself. Things were different now. He was already a Star River-level existence. The difficulties in the past might not necessarily be difficulties anymore. As expected, in less than 20 hours, Lin Feng passed the first stage of the test. Thinking back to the day, his best result was being hit 7,990 times. But now, his new body only needed a short time to adapt, and he easily passed. As expected, I couldn't pass that day because my body's foundation was too weak. My consciousness can keep up, but my body can't avoid it. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "Seems like it's not a problem of talent." Thinking about it, if his talent in movement technique was really that bad, how could his war god and martial god aptitudes be so high? After all, among the aptitudes of sky martial artists, movement technique took up a large part of it. Lin Feng smiled and stepped into the second light door. The second stage. In a space of nothingness and chaos, Lin Feng floated in the air. Around him, countless streams of white light darted into his body like shooting stars, piercing through the air like sharp arrows, making swishing noises. Lin Feng dodged gracefully. The wind vortex on his right leg flickered with purple light from time to time. He dodged unbelievably. The angle of attack was very tricky. The frequency of the attack was much higher than the first stage. But the effect was also very shocking. The goal Duo gave me was to go as far as possible in the third stage. So, I must pass the second stage. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. His mind was completely focused. Although he had been practicing continuously for dozens of hours, Lin Feng didn't slack off at all. There was no shortcut to increasing the realm of movement technique. It can only be done step by step. Proficiency, control, and use freely. In close combat, regardless of whether it was attacking or dodging, movement technique was indispensable. He spent a total of 288 hours. It consumed 576,000 starlight points. The number was quite huge, and this was merely in the real world. Not even 6 hours had passed. But he could afford it now. Finally, I passed the second stage. Lin Feng let out a long sigh of relief. Walking out of the light door, Lin Feng smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Although he looked exhausted, there was also a hint of excitement. This was an increase in strength. The second stage was several times more difficult than the first stage. Fortunately, I have the wind vortex. Otherwise, not to mention 300 hours, even if I had 3,000 hours, I might not be able to dodge perfectly. Lin Feng looked at the faint purple light on his right knee and smiled. Indeed, as Duo said, the existence of the wind vortex was the greatest benefit. It was the realm of movement technique. Tomorrow, I will start to attack the third stage. Time's up. I should go back for the next practice. Very busy. Every second counted. Lin Feng stepped out of the Migres palace. The Netherworld seal flashed, and he returned to the Netherworld ship. Black Mist Dragon Valley. The huge flame that was 100 meters long finally calmed down. The little celestial hound that was curled up in the heavenly fire was no longer trembling. Its body seemed to be frozen. The flame mark on its forehead was fierce and filled with a strong Tao of fire. The surrounding was empty. It had long been burned to ashes by the flames. Suddenly, the huge flame cocoon shook violently. The little celestial hound seemed to have awakened. Its 100-meter-long body struggled frantically. The astonishing heavenly fireball slowly cracked. In an instant, there was a crack sound. The top of the heavenly fireball shattered. At the shattered part, a head that looked like a lion and a dog slowly appeared. Its eyes were sparkling with a sharp light. The little celestial hound, from infancy to childhood, the transformation was complete. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.